The night air is warm above the Nile. The river moves slowly through the darkness, carrying small reflections of stars across its quiet surface. Along its banks, clusters of mudbrick homes rest beneath the pale glow of the moon. Most fires have burned low. Most voices have faded away. The sounds of the day have settled into silence. Only a few gentle noises remain. A dog shifts in its sleep near a doorway. Water brushes softly against reeds growing beside the river. Somewhere far away, an owl calls once before the darkness becomes still again. In this peaceful hour, when much of ancient Egypt sleeps, it is easy to imagine another sound drifting through the night. The soft breathing of children. Thousands of years ago, childhood was not always seen as a separate stage of life. It was not viewed in the same way many people think of it today. Children were loved. They were cared for. Families worried about them, protected them, and hoped for their future. Yet childhood was also preparation. From a very early age, children learned that life followed patterns. Days repeated themselves. Work repeated itself. Seasons repeated themselves. The river rose and fell. Seeds were planted and harvested. Bread was baked. Water was carried. Animals were fed. The same tasks returned again and again. And so children learned through repetition. Every day offered another lesson. Every day offered another opportunity to practice. As the Nile continued flowing through the centuries, generation after generation grew up within these steady rhythms. Tonight we will wander through that world. We will move slowly through villages and towns. We will sit beside families as they prepare food. We will walk dusty roads beneath the morning sun. We will watch children learning skills that shape their lives. And as we travel through these quiet scenes, we may discover how discipline and repetition became powerful forces in shaping childhood in ancient Egypt. Far before sunrise, a village begins to stir. The sky remains dark blue. Stars still hang overhead. Yet inside a small mud brick house, a woman is already awake. The room is simple. Woven mats cover part of the floor. Clay jars stand against the walls. Baskets hold grain gathered from recent harvests. A faint smell of dust lingers in the warm air. Nearby, children sleep closely together. The youngest remains wrapped in deep dreams. An older child shifts slightly as the sounds of movement begin filling the room. A clay lamp flickers. The mother kneels beside a grinding stone. Soon a familiar sound begins. Stone against grain. Back and forth. Back and forth. The movement is steady. The sound is soft. For generations this same motion has started countless mornings. Many children wake hearing it. Many children fall asleep hearing it. The rhythm becomes part of life itself. An older daughter opens her eyes. She has heard this sound thousands of times already. Without being told, she rises. No speech is needed. No long explanation follows. She already knows what comes next. This knowledge did not arrive in a single lesson. It came through repetition. Every morning she watched. Every morning she helped a little more. At first she carried small baskets. Later she fetched water. Then she learned how to prepare grain. Bit by bit, responsibility entered her life. Not through sudden change, but through constant practice. Outside, dawn slowly approaches. The horizon begins turning pale. The village awakens. Doors open. Sandals scrape softly across packed earth. Voices murmur in the distance. A donkey shakes its head. Somewhere nearby, a rooster announces the coming day. The child steps outside carrying a clay jar. The air feels cool for now. That coolness will not last long. Soon the sun will climb higher. Soon heat will settle over the fields. But for this brief moment, morning remains gentle. She joins others walking toward a water source. Some laugh quietly. Some remain silent. Many have completed this same journey countless times before. Children learn roads through repetition. They learn paths through repetition. They learn responsibilities through repetition. Day after day. Season after season. Year after year. Ancient Egyptian education often began long before any formal instruction. Children watched adults constantly. Observation became a teacher. Imitation became a teacher. Routine became a teacher. A boy might spend years watching his father repair fishing nets. At first he simply sat nearby. Later he handed over tools. Eventually he learned each knot himself. No grand ceremony marked the transition. Learning happened slowly. Almost invisibly. Like a river carving its path through stone. The Nile itself taught similar lessons. Each year the river flooded. Each year waters spread across fields. Each year fertile soil remained behind. Children grew up watching this cycle. Its reliability shaped their understanding of the world. Life depended on repetition. Without repeated work, fields could not produce food. Without repeated maintenance, irrigation channels would fail. Without repeated effort, homes would slowly crumble beneath sun and wind. The adults around them understood this deeply. And children absorbed the lesson naturally. The sun rises higher. Light spreads across the landscape. Golden rays touch palm trees and mud brick walls. Soon warmth begins covering everything. Workers move toward fields. Boats drift across the river. Merchants prepare goods for market. Children accompany adults wherever help is needed. Not every child performs heavy labor. Age matters. Strength matters. Family circumstances matter. Yet almost every child participates in household life somehow. Even small tasks carry importance. Gathering reeds. Sweeping floors. Watching younger siblings. Carrying messages. Feeding animals. Simple duties become practice. Practice becomes habit. Habit becomes discipline. Inside a farming family, a young boy follows his father toward cultivated land. Dust rises beneath their sandals. The road feels familiar. They have walked it many times before. The boy notices details he has seen since early childhood. The bend near a cluster of date palms. The irrigation ditch beside the path. The distant shimmer of river water. Everything feels known. Comfortably known. As they reach the fields, work begins. The father examines crops. The son watches carefully. Not because someone demands constant attention, but because observation itself is part of learning. Children absorb knowledge through presence. Simply being there matters. The father kneels and touches the soil. The boy does the same. The father studies water levels. The boy studies them too. Years later, these actions will feel natural. Not because he memorized instructions, but because repetition shaped understanding. Throughout ancient Egypt, countless skills passed from one generation to the next this way. The process often appeared quiet. No classroom. No written test. No formal graduation. Only repeated experience. Repeated effort. Repeated observation. The heat strengthens as morning advances. Sweat forms on foreheads. Workers pause briefly for water. Children learn another lesson here. Endurance. Ancient life demanded patience. Many tasks required hours of steady effort. Grinding grain. Weaving cloth. Fishing. Building. Harvesting. None could be rushed. Children gradually learned how to continue working despite discomfort. Not through harsh speeches, but through daily experience. The world around them reinforced the lesson. The sun rose every day. The work returned every day. And so discipline became woven into ordinary life. Farther north, near a larger settlement, another child begins a different kind of education. He belongs to a family connected with administration. His future may involve writing rather than farming. Yet repetition remains just as important. Perhaps even more important. Inside a modest building, young students sit together. The room feels warm already. Sunlight enters through narrow openings. Dust drifts through beams of light. The children hold writing materials. Some use fragments of pottery. Others use wooden tablets. Nearby sits an instructor. Learning to become a scribe requires patience. Symbols must be copied repeatedly. Words must be practiced repeatedly. Mistakes must be corrected repeatedly. Hour after hour, students write. Erase. Write again. The process is slow. Very slow. A modern observer might find it exhausting. Yet repetition forms the foundation of mastery. Children learn that progress comes gradually. One symbol at a time. One line at a time. One day at a time. Outside, life continues. Merchants pass through crowded streets. Builders carry stone. Craftsmen work inside busy workshops. The sounds of labor fill the settlement. Inside the classroom, students continue practicing. The scratching of writing tools creates a steady rhythm. Almost soothing. Almost hypnotic. The repetition itself becomes familiar. Predictable. Safe. Throughout human history, children have often learned through repeated actions. Ancient Egypt offers many examples. Whether farming, fishing, weaving, writing, or trading, success depended on skills strengthened over long periods. Discipline was not always punishment. Often it meant consistency. Showing up every day. Completing familiar tasks. Practicing until movements felt natural. Repeating until knowledge settled deeply into memory. As afternoon approaches, heat covers the land like a blanket. The sky appears nearly white. Roads shimmer beneath sunlight. Workers seek moments of shade whenever possible. Children do the same. Beneath a tree near the river, several boys rest briefly after helping with fishing tasks. The Nile moves quietly beside them. Boats drift past. The water offers relief from the heavy heat. One boy watches older fishermen repairing nets. Their fingers move automatically. Loop. Pull. Tighten. Repeat. Years of repetition have made the process effortless. The children watch carefully. One day they may perform the same work. One day their hands may move with the same confidence. For now, observation continues. Learning continues. The afternoon stretches onward. Hours pass slowly. The world seems to move at the pace of the river itself. Inside homes, women continue preparing food. Children assist where they can. Bread dough is shaped. Ovens grow hot. The smell of baking fills narrow streets. It is a familiar smell. A comforting smell. one that generations of children have known. Food preparation itself becomes another lesson. Many tasks require precision. Too much water changes dough. Too little heat changes bread. Children learn through repeated participation. Watching. Trying. Correcting. Trying again. There is patience in this process. Not endless patience. Adults sometimes become frustrated. Children sometimes become distracted. Yet the cycle continues. Practice remains the path forward. As evening slowly approaches, shadows lengthen across the ground. The worst heat begins fading. A welcome breeze moves through palm leaves. Workers return home. Boats head toward shore. Animals settle near shelters. The village gradually softens. Children who spent the day helping now gather with family. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. The pace of life slows. Yet even during these peaceful hours, learning continues. Children listen to conversations. They hear advice. They hear expectations. They hear reminders about responsibility. The words become part of memory. Repeated again and again across years. Some lessons focus on respect. Others focus on honesty. Others focus on diligence. The exact details vary between families. But repetition strengthens all of them. A lesson spoken once may fade. A lesson spoken many times becomes familiar. Eventually it becomes part of identity. Night arrives once more. Darkness settles over the Nile. Stars emerge overhead. The river reflects scattered points of light. Families prepare for sleep. Inside mud-brick homes, tired bodies rest after long days. Children stretch out on woven mats. The air remains warm. Outside, distant sounds gradually disappear. Silence grows. Another day has ended. Another day of repetition. Another day of learning. Another day in which childhood was shaped not by extraordinary events, but by countless ordinary moments. Moments repeated so often they became the foundation of life itself. And as the river continues flowing beneath the moonlit sky, more quiet stories wait along its banks, where discipline, routine, and patience continue shaping young lives through the gentle rhythm of ancient days. The night remains calm above the Nile. Moonlight rests upon the water like a thin layer of silver. Reeds sway gently along the riverbanks. The warm breath of the desert drifts across the land, carrying the faint scent of dust and dry earth. Inside the villages scattered beside the river, families sleep. Mud brick walls hold the warmth gathered during the day. Clay jars stand quietly in corners. Woven baskets remain where they were left after the evening meal. The fires have faded into soft beds of ash. Children sleep deeply. Some dream of the river. Some dream of fields stretching beneath endless sunlight. Some dream of things they cannot yet name. Yet before long, morning will return. It always does. The Nile has seen countless mornings. Long before these children were born, dawn arrived over the same fields. Long before their grandparents walked these roads, sunlight spread across the same river. The cycle continues. And childhood unfolds within that cycle. Far in the distance, the first hint of dawn begins to appear. The eastern horizon grows pale. Stars slowly disappear. A coolness lingers in the air, though it will not remain for long. Soon, movement begins once more. A woman rises from her sleeping mat and steps outside. Her feet touch packed earth that still holds traces of the night's coolness. Nearby, another door opens. Then another. The village awakens gradually. No sudden rush. No loud beginning. Only the gentle return of daily life. A young boy opens his eyes. He hears familiar sounds. The creak of a wooden door. The soft murmur of adults speaking nearby. The distant call of birds greeting the morning. These sounds have surrounded him since infancy. They are part of the world he understands. Every child grows up surrounded by repeated sounds. Repeated sights. Repeated routines. Over time, these become anchors of memory. The boy rises and joins his family. Breakfast is simple. Bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps dates. Perhaps a small amount of fish from the river. Nothing extravagant. Only the food that sustains ordinary life. Meals themselves carry lessons. Children learn patience while waiting. They learn gratitude for available food. They learn the habits that hold families together. Again and again these moments occur. Morning after morning. Year after year. Outside, sunlight begins touching the tops of palm trees. Golden light spreads slowly across the village. Workers prepare for another day. A father gathers tools. A mother organizes household tasks. Older children already know what is expected. No long instructions are necessary. The rhythm has been practiced many times before. In ancient Egypt, repetition often reduced the need for explanation. A child who had watched grain being stored for years understood the process without lengthy teaching. A child who had carried water every morning knew the path by heart. Knowledge settled into the body as much as the mind. The boy follows his older brother toward the river. Their sandals leave faint marks in the dust. The road feels familiar. They pass homes built from mud brick, their walls glowing softly in the early sunlight. Women sweep entrances. Children carry baskets. An elderly man sits quietly outside his doorway, watching the village awaken. The brothers continue walking. Ahead, the Nile glitters beneath the growing sun. The river is more than water. It is life itself. Everything depends upon it. The crops. The animals. The transportation. The food. The future. Children learn this truth almost from birth. They may not understand every detail. But they understand the river's importance. Its presence shapes daily life. The older brother kneels near the water's edge. The younger boy copies him. Again, imitation becomes a form of education. The younger child watches carefully. How to fill a container. How to balance its weight. How to carry it without spilling. These skills seem simple. Yet they require practice. Small mistakes happen. Water splashes. Containers tilt. Adults correct gently or sometimes firmly. The lesson continues. The next day brings another opportunity to improve. And the next. And the next. Throughout childhood, many lessons unfold this way. Not through perfection, but through repetition. Nearby, fishermen prepare their boats. Their movements appear smooth and effortless. Years of experience have shaped every action. A young child watches from the shore. He studies how nets are folded, how ropes are tied, how boats are pushed into the water. Perhaps one day he will become a fisherman too. Perhaps not. Yet even if his future lies elsewhere, observation teaches patience. It teaches attention. It teaches respect for skilled work. The morning grows brighter. The heat begins its slow climb. Fields beyond the village fill with activity. Farmers move among rows of crops. Oxen pull simple plows through fertile soil. Birds circle overhead. The smell of damp earth rises from recently watered land. Among the workers are children. Some are still very young. Their responsibilities remain light. Others are older. Their duties increase each year. Childhood often involved gradual steps toward adulthood. A small task became a larger task. A simple responsibility became a more complex responsibility. The transition happened slowly. Almost quietly. There was rarely a single moment when childhood ended. Instead, years of repetition gradually prepared young people for adult life. A girl walks beside her mother through the fields. She carries a basket. Not because it is heavy. Not because the family demands difficult labor from her. But because participation matters. Children learn by joining daily activities. The mother points toward certain plants. The girl listens. Perhaps she learns when crops are ready. Perhaps she learns which areas require more water. Perhaps she simply learns through observation. Every day adds another small piece of understanding. The sun climbs higher. Shadows shorten. Warmth spreads across the land. The familiar rhythm of work continues. In another village, farther downriver, a craftsman sits inside a workshop. The room smells faintly of wood and dust. Light enters through a small opening above. Tools hang neatly along one wall. Nearby sits a young apprentice. The child watches the craftsman's hands. Every movement appears deliberate. Measured. Careful. The craftsman repeats the same techniques countless times. Cutting. Shaping. Smoothing. Polishing. The child watches each step. Tomorrow he will watch again. And the day after that. Many forms of ancient education depended upon observation over long periods. A skill could not be rushed. Experience required time. Patience became part of learning. The apprentice may feel restless at times. Children often do. Yet repetition gradually develops focus. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But steadily. Outside, midday approaches. The heat becomes powerful. Air shimmers above roads. Stone surfaces grow hot beneath the sun. Workers wipe sweat from their faces. Children seek shade whenever possible. Life slows slightly during the hottest hours. Under a palm tree near the river, several young boys rest together. The shade feels precious. A light breeze drifts across the water. One child traces patterns in the dust. Another watches boats moving slowly downstream. Their conversation is quiet. Simple. Unhurried. Even moments of rest contain lessons. Children observe adults managing fatigue. They learn when to work. They learn when to pause. They learn how life adjusts to the rhythms of climate and season. The ancient world demanded attention to nature. The sun could not be ignored. The river could not be ignored. The seasons could not be ignored. Children grew up understanding these realities deeply. As afternoon settles over the land, workshops remain busy. Markets remain active. Homes remain full of tasks. The smell of baking bread drifts through narrow streets. The aroma feels comforting. Familiar. Timeless. Inside one home, a grandmother sits beside several children. Her hands move steadily as she works. Perhaps she weaves. Perhaps she repairs clothing. Perhaps she prepares food. The exact task matters less than the rhythm. The children watch. Occasionally they help. Occasionally they ask questions. Much knowledge passes this way. not through formal instruction, but through proximity. Children learn by being present, by sharing space, by observing daily life. The grandmother's hands carry decades of experience. The children absorb tiny pieces of that experience each day. Over years, those pieces accumulate. A skill emerges. An understanding develops. A tradition continues. Outside, merchants call softly to customers. Donkeys carry loads through dusty streets. The marketplace hums with quiet activity. Children often spend time in these spaces. Markets offer lessons of their own. Weights and measures. Negotiation. Observation of human behavior. The flow of goods from one place to another. A merchant's child may learn arithmetic through repeated exposure to trade. A farmer's child may learn crop values through repeated visits to market. Learning appears everywhere, embedded within ordinary life. The afternoon slowly softens. Sunlight turns golden. Long shadows begin stretching across the ground. Workers feel relief as temperatures gradually fall. The hardest part of the day is ending. Along the Nile, fishermen return. Their boats move quietly through the water. Families gather near shore. Children help unload catches. The process follows familiar patterns. Everyone knows their role. Everyone understands the routine. Repetition creates confidence. Confidence creates competence. The river reflects the colors of evening. Orange. Gold. Soft pink. For a few moments, the world seems almost still. The day's labor begins giving way to rest. In villages throughout Egypt, evening meals are prepared. Families gather together. The smell of bread fills homes. Voices remain gentle. The pace of life slows. Children listen as adults speak about crops, weather, trade, or household matters. These conversations become another source of education. Young ears absorb information constantly. Not every lesson is intentional. Many arrive quietly. A child learns what adults value, what they worry about, what they celebrate, what they expect. Over time, these repeated messages shape character. Discipline is not always enforced through punishment. Often it grows through example. A child watches adults fulfill responsibilities day after day. The pattern becomes normal. The expectation becomes natural. The behavior gradually becomes part of identity. Darkness begins returning. The sky deepens from gold to blue. Then from blue to black. Stars emerge one by one. The Nile reflects their light. A cool breeze drifts through reeds along the shore. Families prepare for sleep. Children grow quiet. The long day has left them tired. Their muscles ache pleasantly from movement. Their eyelids grow heavy. Inside mud-brick homes, woven mats are prepared once again. Clay lamps flicker softly. The glow dances across rough walls. A mother adjusts a blanket. A father speaks a few final words before resting. The village settles. Silence returns slowly. Not complete silence. Never complete silence. The river continues moving. Night insects continue singing. The world continues breathing. But the noise of labor fades. Children close their eyes. Another day has passed. Another day shaped by routine. Another day shaped by observation. Another day shaped by the quiet discipline of repeated actions. And beyond the sleeping village, beneath the ancient stars, the Nile continues its endless journey through the darkness, carrying with it countless stories of childhood, patience, and learning that still dripped softly through the night air. The Nile moves quietly beneath the stars. Its waters glide through the darkness with the same steady patience they have carried for thousands of years. The river does not hurry. It does not pause. It simply continues, flowing past sleeping villages, silent fields, and mud-brick homes resting beneath the night sky. The air has cooled slightly. A gentle breeze drifts across the water and moves through the reeds along the riverbank. Palm leaves rustle softly. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once before silence returns. Most of the village sleeps. Children lie on woven mats beside parents, brothers, sisters, and grandparents. Their breathing is slow and even. The labor of the day has left them tired. Tomorrow will bring another sunrise. Another walk to the river. Another basket to carry. Another lesson to learn. But for now, there is only rest. Hours pass quietly. The stars slowly wheel overhead. Then, almost unnoticed, darkness begins to soften. The eastern horizon becomes pale. Morning approaches once more. In ancient Egypt, mornings arrived with remarkable consistency. Generations lived their entire lives according to this rhythm. Children woke with the sun. Adults woke with the sun. The land itself seemed to wake with the sun. Long before clocks existed, daily life followed patterns written by light and shadow. A young girl opens her eyes. For a moment she remains still. The room is dim. A clay lamp has long since burned out. The familiar shapes of jars and baskets appear faintly in the growing light. Nearby, she hears movement. Her mother is already awake. The day has begun. The girl rises from her sleeping mat. She has done this thousands of times before. Not exactly this morning, of course. But mornings very much like it. The repetition creates a feeling of certainty. She knows where to go. She knows what needs to be done. She understands her place within the household. That understanding did not appear suddenly. It grew slowly over years. Like a plant rooted beside the Nile. Outside, the village begins stirring. Doors open. Sandals scrape softly against the ground. Voices drift through the cool morning air. The smell of fresh bread begins to appear. Somewhere nearby, grain is already being ground. The steady sound of stone against stone becomes part of the morning atmosphere. Children often learn through sounds as much as through words. The sounds of work became familiar companions. The scrape of tools. The splash of water. The crackle of cooking fires. The creak of wooden boats. The hum of conversation. Together they formed the soundtrack of daily life. As sunlight spreads across the village, workers begin moving toward fields and workshops. Children accompany them. Not all at once. Not in identical ways. Every family differs. Every child follows a slightly different path. Yet many experiences overlap. Responsibility arrives gradually. One task at a time. One season at a time. 1 year at a time. A young boy follows his uncle toward a workshop near the center of a busy town. The streets are already filling with activity. Merchants arrange goods outside small stalls. Donkeys carry loads through narrow pathways. Craftsmen unlock doors and prepare tools. The town feels alive. The workshop smells of wood, dust, and warm air. Sunlight enters through a small opening high in the wall. Tiny particles float through the beam of light. The boy sits quietly nearby. Today he will watch. Watching may seem passive. Yet in many ancient trades, observation was one of the most important parts of learning. A child learned how skilled hands moved, how tools were held, how mistakes were avoided, how patience shaped good work. The uncle begins his task. The boy watches carefully. Hours pass. The same motions repeat. Again. And again. And again. At first repetition may appear boring. Yet repetition contains hidden lessons. Each movement becomes slightly clearer. Each detail becomes easier to understand. Over time, what once seemed complicated begins to feel familiar. This was true for children across ancient Egypt. Whether they hoped to become builders, fishermen, scribes, merchants, or farmers, mastery came slowly. No shortcut existed. Only practice. Outside, the sun climbs steadily higher. Heat begins spreading across streets and rooftops. The coolness of morning disappears. Dust rises beneath countless feet. The town grows louder. Yet inside the workshop, the rhythm remains steady. Tools move. Hands work. Knowledge passes quietly from one generation to another. Elsewhere, along the riverbank, another child experiences a different kind of lesson. A father and son stand beside a small fishing boat. The Nile glitters beneath bright sunlight. Birds circle above the water. The father examines a net. The son watches closely. The net contains dozens of knots. Each knot serves a purpose. Each knot must be tied correctly. A mistake could mean lost fish, lost food, lost income. The father demonstrates. Slowly, patiently, the boy attempts the knot himself. His fingers move awkwardly. The knot slips. The father corrects him. The boy tries again. The knot slips once more. The lesson continues. There is no rush. Tomorrow offers another opportunity. And the day after that. And the day after that. Ancient childhood often involved accepting that learning required time. Many skills demanded months or years of practice. Children grew accustomed to gradual improvement. Progress rarely arrived instantly. Instead, it appeared little by little. Almost too slowly to notice. Yet over the years, small improvements became enormous changes. The boy who struggles with a knot today may repair entire fishing nets as an adult. The girl who carries a small basket today may someday manage an entire household. Time and repetition work together. One strengthens the other. As midday approaches, heat settles heavily across the landscape. The sky becomes brilliant and bright. The ground radiates warmth. Workers seek shade whenever possible. The Nile becomes even more precious during these hours. Its waters offer relief. Its breeze offers comfort. Children often gather near shaded areas along the river. Here they find moments of rest. A group of boys sit beneath a cluster of palm trees. They watch boats passing slowly downstream. Some carry grain. Some carry stone. Some carry passengers traveling between settlements. The boys speak quietly. Then they fall silent. There is no need to fill every moment with conversation. Ancient life often contained long periods of simple observation. Watching the river. Watching animals. Watching clouds drift across the sky. Such moments taught patience. Patience was not always viewed as a special skill. It was simply part of life. Nearby, women wash clothing at the river's edge. Children assist with small tasks. A girl carries folded cloth. Another gathers water. The work proceeds steadily. No one rushes. The heat itself discourages haste. Everything moves at a measured pace. The afternoon unfolds slowly. Inside homes, bread continues baking. The smell drifts through narrow streets and open courtyards. It mixes with the scent of dust, warm clay, and cooking fires. For many children, these smells become permanent memories. The scent of home. The scent of routine. The scent of safety. A grandmother sits beneath a shaded awning. Several children gather nearby. Her hands move steadily as she repairs a woven basket. The children watch. One asks a question. The grandmother answers. Then she continues working. The lesson is simple. The basket must be repaired carefully. If rushed, it will weaken. If done properly, it will last. Such lessons often carried meanings beyond the task itself. Children learned that care mattered. Attention mattered. Patience mattered. Not through lectures. Through observation. Through repetition. Through daily life. The sun slowly begins its descent. The harshest heat softens. A welcome breeze returns. Workers feel energy returning to tired bodies. Shadows lengthen across roads and fields. The world begins changing color. Golden light spreads across the land. The Nile shines like polished metal. Farmers gather tools. Merchants count goods. Builders finish final tasks before evening. Children help wherever needed. A boy carries a bundle of reeds. A girl gathers empty baskets. Another child helps guide animals toward shelter. Small responsibilities, yet important ones. Responsibility often grows in layers. Each completed task leads naturally to another. Trust develops gradually. Adults observe. Children learn. The cycle continues. As sunset approaches, families begin returning home. The roads fill with familiar faces. Neighbors greet one another. Children walk beside parents. The day's labor is ending. A feeling of relief settles across the village. Evening meals are prepared. Clay ovens radiate warmth. The smell of bread becomes stronger. Fish cooks over small fires. Dates and vegetables are arranged for supper. Families gather together. The pace of life slows. The noise of work fades. Conversation replaces labor. Children listen carefully. Perhaps an older relative shares a story. Perhaps adults discuss crops. Perhaps they speak about weather or trade. Whatever the topic, children absorb information. Listening itself becomes education. Across ancient Egypt, countless lessons were learned around evening meals. Not through formal teaching. Simply through participation in family life. Darkness gradually returns. The first stars appear overhead. One by one, they fill the sky. The river reflects tiny points of light. The air cools. A peaceful stillness settles over the land. Inside homes, children grow sleepy. Their bodies feel heavy after a long day. Their minds hold hundreds of small experiences. A knot tied beside the river. A basket carried across a courtyard. A lesson observed in a workshop. A story heard during supper. Each moment may seem insignificant on its own. Yet together they shape a childhood. Together they build habits. Together they build understanding. Discipline in ancient Egypt was often woven into the structure of daily life itself. The rising sun encouraged work. The seasons encouraged preparation. The needs of family encouraged responsibility. Children learned because life required learning. And so, as another night settles gently across the Nile Valley, the villages grow quiet once more. The fires burn low. The roads empty. The workshops rest. The boats drift softly beside the shore. And beneath the endless stars, children close their eyes and drift into sleep, while the ancient river continues its calm and timeless journey through the darkness. The river continues through the darkness. Its waters slip past sleeping villages and silent fields, moving with a calm certainty that never seems to change. The Nile has flowed this way through countless nights, beneath countless moons, beside countless homes where children drifted into sleep after long days of work, learning, and routine. The stars above are bright. Far from the glow of any modern light, the ancient sky appears endless. Thousands of points of light stretch across the darkness. Children often grew up beneath these same stars, seeing them night after night until they became as familiar as the roads leading to the river. The village rests. A few dogs wander quietly between houses. A faint breeze slips through narrow lanes. Palm leaves whisper softly against one another. Inside the homes, families sleep close together. The walls of mud brick hold the warmth gathered throughout the day. Clay jars sit silently in corners. Baskets remain stacked against walls. Simple tools wait for tomorrow's labor. The children sleep deeply. Their hands may still carry traces of dust from the fields. Their feet may ache slightly from walking. Their shoulders may feel tired from carrying small loads. Yet sleep comes easily. The rhythm of ancient life often left little room for restlessness. Days were long. Work was steady. Even children spent much of their time moving, helping, watching, and learning. And so the night becomes a welcome companion. Hours pass. The stars slowly shift. The air cools a little more. Then, once again, the first signs of dawn begin to appear. The cycle continues. It always continues. For a child growing up in ancient Egypt, repetition was not simply part of life. Repetition was life. The same roads. The same fields. The same river. The same tasks. The same familiar faces. Again and again. Yet within those repeated days, childhood slowly unfolded. A boy who carried a small water jar one year might carry a larger one the next. A girl who once watched bread being prepared from the corner of a room might eventually knead the dough herself. Growth happened so gradually that it was often difficult to notice. Like the river shaping its banks. Like a tree growing toward the sun. Like a child becoming an adult. Morning arrives. Soft light spreads across rooftops. Birds begin calling from nearby trees. The village awakens. One home near the edge of the settlement begins stirring before most others. An elderly woman is already awake. Years of habit have trained her body to rise before sunrise. She moves carefully through the dim room. Nearby, two children still sleep. Soon they will wake. Soon another day of learning will begin. Not because someone has prepared a lesson. Not because a teacher waits nearby. But because every ordinary day contains opportunities to learn. The children open their eyes. The younger one rubs sleep from his face. The older one immediately begins helping. Years of repetition have made certain actions automatic. A mat is rolled. A basket is moved. A clay container is checked. No one needs to explain these things anymore. The child simply knows. Knowledge built through repetition often feels different from knowledge learned through words. It becomes part of movement. Part of instinct. Part of daily life. Outside, the sky turns golden. The first sunlight touches the tops of date palms. The cool morning air feels pleasant against the skin. Before long, the heat will return. Everyone knows this. Children know it as well as adults. The sun itself teaches discipline. Certain work must be done early. Some tasks become harder later. Timing matters. The environment shapes behavior. Along a dusty road leading away from the village, a father and daughter walk together. The road is familiar. Their sandals press softly into the earth. A donkey follows behind carrying supplies. The daughter has traveled this road many times. At first she simply accompanied her father. Then she began helping with small tasks. Now she carries responsibilities of her own. The process has taken years. No sudden moment transformed her abilities. Only repetition. Only practice. Only time. As they walk, they pass other families heading toward fields. Farmers carry tools over their shoulders. Children walk beside them. The landscape glows beneath the rising sun. Green fields stand in contrast to the dry earth beyond the reach of the river. The Nile's gift is visible everywhere. Without it, life here would be far more difficult. Children understood this from an early age. Not through abstract ideas. Through observation. They watched irrigation channels being maintained. They watched fields watered. They watched crops grow. The connection between labor and survival remained visible. A child could see it, touch it, experience it. This visibility made many lessons easier to understand. Work produced results. Neglected work produced problems. The relationship was clear. Farther away, in a bustling town, another morning unfolds. The streets fill gradually with activity. Merchants arrange goods. Artisans open workshops. Boats move along canals and riverbanks. A young apprentice arrives at his master's workshop. He is still sleepy. The day feels long before it has even begun. Such feelings are not unusual. Children in every age sometimes wish to remain in bed. Sometimes they feel tired. Sometimes they feel distracted. Ancient Egyptian children were no different. Yet routine often carried them forward. The apprentice enters the workshop. The familiar smell of wood greets him. Tools hang neatly where they always hang. Workbenches stand where they always stand. Sunlight enters through the same opening. The day begins. The master demonstrates a task. The apprentice watches. Then he practices. Mistakes happen. Corrections follow. The process repeats. Again. And again. And again. Many ancient skills required remarkable patience. A single day rarely produced mastery. A single month rarely produced mastery. Years were often necessary. Children learned to accept gradual progress. That acceptance became part of their character. Outside, the town grows warmer. The sun climbs steadily higher. Dust rises into the air. Voices echo through narrow streets. The smell of baking bread drifts from nearby homes. Everywhere, people are working. Everywhere, routines continue. For many children, routine created a sense of security. The world felt predictable. The river would rise and fall. Morning would become afternoon. Parents would perform familiar tasks. Meals would arrive at expected times. The structure of daily life offered stability. Of course, difficulties existed. Ancient life was not easy. Illness could appear unexpectedly. Floods sometimes varied. Harvests could disappoint. Hardship was real. Yet even during difficult times, routine often remained important. People continued baking bread. Continued repairing tools. Continued carrying water. Continued teaching children. The familiar rhythms provided comfort. Near midday, the heat begins pressing down upon the land. The air feels heavy. Roads shimmer beneath sunlight. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Children do the same. A group of boys rest beneath a large sycamore tree. The shade feels cool compared to the open fields. They watch adults working nearby. Some farmers repair irrigation channels. Others inspect crops. The boys observe quietly. Observation remains one of the most powerful forms of learning. Many children spend years watching skilled adults. The learning happens gradually. One detail at a time. A hand movement. A technique. A decision. A habit. Knowledge accumulates like grains of sand. Tiny pieces gathering day after day. Eventually a dune forms. Eventually understanding appears. The afternoon moves slowly. The ancient world often moved slowly. Travel took time. Messages took time. Construction took time. Farming certainly took time. Children learned to live within that pace. Waiting became normal. Patience became normal. The river itself encouraged such thinking. No one could force it to move faster. No one could hurry the seasons. Life unfolded according to natural rhythms. Inside a modest home, a young girl helps prepare food. The room is warm. Sunlight enters through a doorway. A clay oven radiates heat. The smell of grain fills the air. She watches her mother carefully. Every movement contains information. How much water to add? How long to mix? How to shape the dough? The daughter imitates each action. Some attempts succeed. Others do not. The learning continues. Generations of children acquired household skills this way. Through repetition. Through observation. Through participation. Not through long explanations. The afternoon slowly softens. A breeze begins moving across the river. Palm leaves sway gently. Birds gather near the water's edge. The intense brightness of midday gradually fades. Workers feel relief. The hardest hours are ending. Children helping in fields begin gathering tools. Those working near workshops finish smaller tasks. Families start thinking about evening. The transition from labor to rest unfolds slowly. Along the Nile, boats return toward shore. Their silhouettes move across water glowing with late sunlight. Fishermen prepare to unload catches. Children often help. A basket is carried. A rope is secured. A net is folded. Small tasks. Yet meaningful tasks. Repeated enough times, they become second nature. Repeated enough times, they build confidence. The sun begins sinking lower. Golden light spreads across the landscape. The village takes on a softer appearance. Mudbrick walls glow warmly. Dusty roads shine like copper. The river reflects the colors of sunset. Families return home. The pace slows. Voices soften. The smell of evening meals fills the air. Bread bakes. Fish cooks. Dates are arranged in simple bowls. Children gather with parents and grandparents. The work of the day is finished. For now. As darkness returns, conversations drift through open doorways. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. Memories are recalled. Children listen. Sometimes closely. Sometimes while fighting sleep. Yet the words remain. Certain lessons may be heard hundreds of times throughout childhood. The importance of responsibility. The value of effort. The need for patience. The respect owed to family. Repetition strengthens these messages. What is heard often becomes familiar. What becomes familiar often shapes behavior. The stars appear once again. The river darkens beneath the night sky. A cool breeze moves through the village. Families prepare for sleep. Children settle onto woven mats. Their eyes grow heavy. The day's lessons, both spoken and unspoken, settle quietly into memory. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey. The same river their parents knew. The same river their grandparents knew. The same river that will continue flowing long after their own footsteps have faded from the dusty roads. And beneath the peaceful sky of ancient Egypt, another day of childhood gently comes to an end, carried softly into the darkness by routine, discipline, and the timeless rhythm of the river. The Nile flows through the night like a dark ribbon of glass. Its surface catches fragments of starlight and carries them silently downstream. Along the riverbanks, reeds bend gently beneath the touch of a cool breeze. Palm trees stand motionless against the sky, their shadows stretching across the sleeping land. The villages are quiet now. The workshops have emptied. The markets have fallen silent. The ovens that baked bread throughout the day have cooled. Only a few faint sounds remain. The distant splash of water against a moored boat. The soft rustling of animals settling into sleep. The whisper of wind moving through dry grass. Inside a small mud brick house near the river, a family rests together. The room is simple. A few baskets. A few clay jars. Several woven mats spread across the floor. Nothing luxurious. Nothing unnecessary. Only the objects needed for everyday life. The children sleep peacefully. Their faces are calm in the darkness. Tomorrow will bring another day of familiar routines. Another day of small responsibilities. Another day of lessons hidden within ordinary tasks. Yet for now, they rest. The night protects them from the heat. The darkness offers stillness. Hours pass slowly. The stars continue their silent journey overhead. Eventually, the eastern horizon begins to change. At first the difference is almost impossible to notice. A faint softness appears beyond a distant desert. Then the darkness slowly retreats. Morning approaches once again. The ancient world wakes gradually. No bells ring. No machines start. The land awakens through natural sounds. Birds call from nearby trees. Animals stir within shelters. Doors creak open. Voices emerge softly from sleeping homes. The first rays of sunlight touch the tops of palm trees. A new day begins. For many children in ancient Egypt, mornings followed patterns so familiar that they could almost complete them without thinking. A young boy wakes before sunrise. He sits quietly for a moment. The room feels cool compared to the heat that will arrive later. Nearby, his father is already preparing for the day. The boy knows what comes next. He has watched it happen every morning for years. The family will eat. Tools will be gathered. The road to the fields will be traveled. Work will begin. The routine is deeply familiar. Yet familiarity does not make it meaningless. In many ways, repetition gives meaning to these moments. Repeated actions create structure. Structure creates stability. Children often feel safer when they understand what comes next. Ancient childhood contained many uncertainties, but daily routines provided dependable patterns. Outside, the village slowly fills with life. Women prepare food. Men organize equipment. Children assist wherever help is needed. A girl carries a basket toward a storage area. Her movements are confident. She no longer needs constant guidance. Years of repetition have taught her exactly where things belong. Exactly how tasks should be completed. The learning happened gradually. So gradually that neither she nor her parents could likely identify the exact moment when the skill was fully acquired. That is often the nature of learning through repetition. Knowledge settles quietly into the mind. Day after day. Season after season. Until one day the task feels natural. Along a dusty path leading toward the fields, several families walk together. The morning air remains pleasant. A faint scent of damp earth rises from irrigated land. The Nile glitters in the distance. Children walk beside adults. Some carry small tools. Others carry baskets. The youngest simply follow along, observing everything around them. Observation remains one of the most important forms of education. A child sees how adults greet one another, how they solve problems, how they organize work, how they respond to challenges. These lessons are not written down. They are absorbed through daily experience. As the sun climbs higher, activity spreads across the countryside. Farmers inspect crops. Workers repair irrigation channels. Animals are guided toward grazing areas. Children participate according to their age and ability. A young girl watches her grandmother gathering plants near the edge of a field. The older woman moves carefully. Her hands know exactly what to look for. Years of experience guide every decision. The child watches closely. At first she sees only plants. But over time she begins noticing differences. Shapes. Colors. Textures. Small details become meaningful. Learning often begins this way. The eye learns before the hand. Observation comes before mastery. Patience comes before confidence. The grandmother does not rush. Neither does the lesson. The morning continues. The sky grows brighter. The air grows warmer. Workers settle into steady rhythms. The sound of labor spreads across the landscape. Tools strike earth. Water moves through channels. Voices drift across fields. Everything feels connected. Everything feels purposeful. Children grow up surrounded by these rhythms. The repetition shapes not only what they know but how they think. Tasks are completed step by step. Goals are reached through persistence. Progress arrives slowly. These ideas become deeply familiar. Near the river, fishermen prepare for another day on the water. A father and son work side by side. The father examines a net. The son helps untangle a section of rope. The task is small. Yet it matters. Ancient childhood was often built from small responsibilities. Rarely did a child wake up and suddenly receive enormous duties. Instead, responsibility expanded gradually. A little more each year. A little more each season. Trust was earned through consistency. The son completes his task. His father nods approvingly. No long speech follows. No grand celebration. Only a simple acknowledgement. Such moments could be important. Children often measured progress through these small signs of trust. A larger responsibility. A more difficult task. A quiet expression of approval. The morning slowly gives way to midday. The heat returns. Sunlight pours across the landscape. The fields shimmer. Roads become dusty and bright. Workers move more slowly. The pace of life adjusts to the temperature. Children learn this adjustment naturally. They understand when to conserve energy, when to seek shade, when to continue working despite discomfort. The environment teaches lessons every day. Beneath a shaded awning in a busy town, a young apprentice practices a skill he has been learning for many months. His master watches nearby. The apprentice repeats the same motion again and again. His hands are more confident now than they were at the beginning. Mistakes still occur, but fewer than before. The improvement is obvious. Yet it did not happen in a single afternoon. It emerged through countless repetitions. The same exercise, the same correction, the same practice, again and again. The ancient world often rewarded patience. Children who accepted gradual progress were better prepared for the realities of adult life. Many important skills required years to master. Building, writing, trading, farming, fishing, weaving. Every craft demanded persistence. Afternoon arrives. Heat settles heavily over the land. Even the animals seek shelter from the sun. The village grows quieter for a while. Movement slows. Conversations soften. A feeling of stillness spreads across the landscape. Inside a cool corner of a home, several children sit beside an elderly relative. The older man tells a story. His voice is calm, unhurried. The children listen. Storytelling was another form of education. Not because every story contained a direct lesson, but because stories carried values, memories, and shared experiences. Children learned what their communities respected, what they feared, what they hoped for. Through repeated stories, certain ideas became deeply familiar. The stories themselves became part of childhood, part of identity, part of belonging. Outside, the afternoon gradually begins to soften. The harsh brightness of midday starts fading. A breeze arrives from the direction of the river. Palm leaves stir gently. Workers feel renewed energy. The final hours of labor begin. A young boy helps carry harvested crops toward a storage area. The load is not too heavy. Adults are careful not to overwhelm him. Yet the task is real, meaningful, useful. He feels pride in completing it. Responsibility often brings satisfaction, especially when children understand that their efforts matter. Ancient families depended upon cooperation. Every contribution had value. As the sun lowers toward the horizon, golden light spreads across the land. The Nile reflects the colors of evening. Boats return from the water. Farmers gather tools. Merchants organize their goods. The day's work slowly comes to an end. Families begin returning home. Dust rises softly beneath their sandals. Children walk beside parents and grandparents. The familiar journey feels comforting. At home, preparations for the evening meal begin. The smell of bread soon fills the air. Cooking fires glow warmly. Simple meals are shared. Voices mingle softly. Laughter appears occasionally, though never loudly enough to disturb the peaceful atmosphere of the village. Children listen as adults discuss the day. A successful catch. A repaired tool. A healthy crop. Small victories. Small concerns. The ordinary details of life. These conversations help children understand the world around them. Little by little. Day by day. The sky darkens. Stars emerge overhead. The air cools. Families prepare for sleep once more. Children settle onto woven mats. Their bodies feel pleasantly tired. their minds carry another day's worth of experiences. Another day's worth of observations. Another day's worth of lessons. Outside, the Nile continues its timeless journey beneath the stars. The river does not rush. The night does not hurry. And within the quiet villages along its banks, childhood continues to unfold through discipline, repetition, patience, and the gentle rhythms of everyday life. The night stretches peacefully across the Nile Valley. Above the river, countless stars shimmer in the darkness. Their reflections tremble gently upon the moving water, breaking apart and reforming as the current continues its endless journey toward distant lands. The villages sleep. The fields rest. The workshops stand empty. Even the animals seem quieter now. Only the Nile remains awake, moving steadily beneath the moonlight as it has done for generations beyond counting. Inside a modest home near the edge of a farming settlement, a small family lies asleep together. The walls are thick and simple. Made from mud and straw, they have endured years of heat, wind, and seasonal change. Tiny cracks mark the surface. The floor beneath the sleeping mats is smooth from countless footsteps. A young boy sleeps near the doorway. His hands are rougher than they were a year ago. Not because he has become old. Not because he has endured extraordinary hardship. Simply because he is growing. Each season brings new responsibilities. Each season teaches new skills. His childhood is unfolding one day at a time. Outside, the moon slowly crosses the sky. A gentle breeze carries the scent of water and reeds. Palm fronds sway softly. Somewhere near the riverbank, a boat knocks quietly against its wooden mooring. The sound comes and goes. Then silence returns. Hours pass. The stars gradually begin fading. Morning approaches once more. In ancient Egypt, countless childhood memories began before sunrise. The coolest hours of the day often arrived just before dawn. The air felt fresh. The world felt calm. The land seemed to pause briefly between night and labor. A young girl opens her eyes. The room remains dim. For a moment she listens. She hears familiar sounds. The movement of her mother. The distant call of birds. The soft whisper of wind outside. Without needing instruction, she rises. Routine guides her. The habits of many years guide her. Soon she joins the morning activity that fills the household. A clay jar must be checked. A basket must be moved. A younger sibling must be watched for a moment. The tasks are ordinary. Yet childhood often grows through ordinary things. The lessons that shape a person are not always dramatic. Many arrive quietly. Many arrive repeatedly. The girl performs actions she has practiced hundreds of times. Perhaps thousands. Each repetition strengthens confidence. Each repetition deepens understanding. Outside, dawn spreads across the eastern sky. A band of pale gold appears above the horizon. The desert beyond the cultivated land begins to glow softly in the growing light. The Nile catches the first rays of the sun. For a few moments, the river seems almost magical. Its surface shines with liquid gold. Children growing up near the river witnessed scenes like this throughout their lives. The beauty became familiar. Yet familiarity did not make it less meaningful. The river remained the center of everything. The source of water. The source of fertile soil. The source of transportation. The source of food. Life followed its rhythms. And because life followed those rhythms, childhood followed them too. As the village awakens, a father and son begin walking toward the fields. The road is dusty but well known. They have traveled it together countless times. The son notices things he has seen many times before. A cluster of palms beside an irrigation channel. A broken stone near the path. A distant boat moving slowly across the river. The landscape feels familiar. Comfortably familiar. Children often develop strong attachments to places they encounter repeatedly. The road becomes part of memory. The field becomes part of memory. The river becomes part of memory. Years later, these places remain vivid in the mind. The father walks quietly. The son walks quietly beside him. No lengthy conversation is needed. The relationship itself has been shaped through shared routines. Shared labor. Shared mornings. Shared experiences. Many lessons pass between generations without many words. A child observes how an adult behaves, how they solve problems, how they respond to setbacks, how they treat neighbors, how they fulfill responsibilities. Observation becomes instruction. The fields are beautiful in the early light. Green crops sway gently in the breeze. Water glimmers inside irrigation channels. Birds search for insects among the plants. Workers begin arriving from nearby villages. The day is starting. A familiar rhythm settles across the landscape. Tools are gathered. Tasks are assigned. Work begins. The boy assists where he can. He watches closely. Today he may learn something new. Tomorrow he may repeat it. The following week he may perform it with greater confidence. Learning through repetition often appears slow. Yet its results can be remarkable. Skills become deeply rooted. Knowledge becomes reliable. Actions become instinctive. Nearby, an older farmer repairs a section of irrigation channel. The task requires patience. Water must flow correctly. The soil must be shaped carefully. The farmer works methodically. A child watches. The child sees not only the task itself but the attitude behind it. Carefulness. Persistence. Attention to detail. Such qualities are often learned through example. Children absorb them over years of observation. The sun climbs higher. The coolness of morning begins fading. Warmth spreads across the land. Workers continue their tasks. The sounds of labor fill the air. Footsteps. Voices. Moving water. Animals. The noises blend into a steady background rhythm. For many children, these sounds become part of their earliest memories. A girl helping her mother near the village hears similar sounds. The household is busy. Bread is being prepared. Grain is being sorted. Storage containers are being inspected. The daughter helps where she can. Her hands move more confidently now than they once did. Years ago she needed guidance for every step. Now many tasks feel natural. The change happened slowly. So slowly that it may have gone unnoticed from day to day. But over time, the difference became clear. This gradual growth was common throughout ancient childhood. Children were not expected to know everything immediately. They learned by doing. Again and again. Until the unfamiliar became familiar. Until the difficult became manageable. Until responsibility felt normal. As the morning progresses, the village marketplace begins filling with activity. Merchants arrange goods beneath shaded coverings. Farmers bring produce. Craftsmen display their work. Voices rise and fall in calm conversation. A young child accompanies a parent through the marketplace. Everything seems fascinating. The colors. The smells. The sounds. The movement of people. The child watches carefully. Markets offered their own education. Children observed trade. They observed negotiation. They observed social relationships. They learned how communities functioned. Many important lessons occurred simply by being present. By paying attention. By listening. The heat of midday arrives. The sun shines directly overhead. Shadows shrink beneath buildings and trees. The air feels heavy. Workers seek shade when possible. Children do the same. Near the river, several boys sit beneath a palm tree. The Nile flows quietly nearby. Its presence feels comforting. Reliable. Constant. One boy tosses a small pebble into the water. Ripples spread across the surface. Then disappear. The boys sit quietly for a while. Not every moment of childhood is spent working. Rest exists too. Conversation exists. Simple observation exists. Yet even during these moments, children remain surrounded by the patterns of their world. The river flows. Boats pass. Workers labor. Families prepare meals. The rhythms continue. The afternoon unfolds slowly. Inside a workshop, an apprentice continues practicing a skill he has worked on for many months. His master observes. A correction is offered. The apprentice tries again. The process repeats. There is no shortcut. Only patience. Only effort. Only time. Ancient Egyptian childhood often required accepting this reality. Improvement came through repetition. Mastery came through repetition. Confidence came through repetition. The lesson appeared everywhere. In workshops. In fields. In kitchens. In boats. In markets. Across every part of life. As the sun begins descending toward the western horizon, relief spreads across the land. The heat weakens. The breeze strengthens. Long shadows stretch across roads and courtyards. Workers begin finishing the day's final tasks. Children help gather tools. Animals are guided toward shelter. Boats turn toward home. The pace becomes gentler. More relaxed. Golden light fills the landscape. The Nile shines brightly. Palm trees cast elegant shadows. Dusty roads glow softly in the evening sun. Families return home together. Their footsteps are unhurried. The day is ending. Inside homes, evening preparations begin. The smell of baking bread drifts through open doorways. Cooking fires flicker. Clay pots simmer quietly. Children sit nearby, watching familiar routines unfold once again. These evening moments often carry a sense of comfort. The work is finished. The family is together. The heat is fading. The darkness is still some distance away. An older relative begins telling a story. The children listen. Perhaps they have heard parts of it before. Perhaps many times before. That hardly matters. Stories often gain strength through repetition. Each telling feels slightly different. Each telling reinforces memory. Each telling becomes another thread connecting generations. Outside, the first stars appear overhead. The sky darkens gradually. The river grows darker too. Its surface reflects points of light from the heavens above. The village becomes quieter. Voices soften. Doors close. Animals settle down for the night. Children grow sleepy. Another day has passed. Another day shaped by routine. Another day shaped by patient learning. Another day shaped by observation and repetition. And as families drift into sleep beside the ancient river, The Nile continues flowing through the darkness, carrying with it the quiet rhythm of countless childhoods unfolding beneath the stars. The Nile glides silently through the darkness. Its waters reflect the stars above, carrying their scattered light through the sleeping valley. Along the riverbanks, reeds whisper softly whenever a breeze passes through them. Palm trees stand as dark silhouettes against the night sky. The villages are quiet now. The day's labor has faded into memory. The fields rest beneath the moonlight. The workshops stand empty. The marketplaces are still. Only the occasional sound of moving water or a distant animal breaks the silence. Inside a small mud brick house, a family sleeps together. The room is warm but comfortable. A clay jar rests near the wall. Woven baskets sit neatly in one corner. A simple oil lamp has long since gone dark. The children sleep deeply after a day spent helping, learning, observing, and growing. Their lives move within patterns older than anyone can remember. Patterns shaped by the river. Patterns shaped by the seasons. Patterns shaped by generations of families who lived before them. As the hours pass, the moon slowly lowers toward the horizon. The stars begin fading one by one. Soon morning will arrive again. And with it, another day of familiar routines. For children growing up in ancient Egypt, the passing of time often felt different from the way it feels in many places today. Days were measured by sunlight. Seasons were measured by the river. Years were measured by harvests. Children watched these cycles repeat so often that they became part of how they understood the world. The Nile rose. The Nile fell. Fields were planted. Fields were harvested. Life continued. Again and again. The eastern horizon begins to brighten. A pale band of light appears above the distant desert. Birds awaken. Their calls drift across the still air. A donkey shifts within its shelter. Doors begin opening throughout the village. The day returns. Inside one home, a young boy wakes before most of the family. For a moment he remains still, listening. He hears his father's footsteps outside. He hears the faint sound of grain being prepared. He hears the village slowly coming to life. These sounds are familiar. They have surrounded him for as long as he can remember. Every childhood contains sounds that become deeply connected to memory. For Egyptian children, those sounds often included grinding stones, flowing water, rustling reeds, and the quiet movement of people beginning another day of work. The boy rises and steps outside. The morning air feels cool against his skin. He looks toward the river. A thin layer of mist hangs above parts of the water. The rising sun paints the horizon with soft shades of gold. For a few moments, the world feels calm and peaceful. Soon labor will begin. But not yet. For now, there is only dawn. His father is preparing tools nearby. The boy watches. Years of observation have taught him many things. He knows how the tools should be carried. He knows where they belong. He knows which ones are used for different tasks. Nobody needs to explain these details anymore. The lessons have already been repeated hundreds of times. Learning through repetition often creates this kind of quiet understanding. Knowledge settles deeply. It becomes part of daily behavior. Part of habit. Part of identity. Together they begin walking toward the fields. The dusty path stretches ahead. Palm trees cast long shadows in the early sunlight. Other families are making the same journey. Some walk silently. Others speak softly. Children move alongside parents and older siblings. The road itself feels familiar. Many young people travel the same paths every day for years. Over time, Every bend becomes known. Every landmark becomes familiar. Every season brings subtle changes. Yet the overall pattern remains. That consistency helps shape childhood. The fields welcome the morning sun. Green plants shimmer with traces of moisture left by the night. Water moves quietly through irrigation channels. Birds search among the crops. Workers spread out across the land. The day's tasks begin. A child helping in the fields learns many lessons beyond farming itself. Patience. Observation. Responsibility. Awareness. The land teaches these things naturally. Seeds do not grow instantly. Water does not move on command. Harvests do not appear overnight. Everything requires time. Everything requires care. Children absorb these truths simply by living among them. Nearby, an older farmer kneels to inspect a section of crops. A young girl watches closely. She has accompanied her family to the fields many times before. At first she only observed. Later she began helping with small duties. Now she understands much of what she sees. The transformation happened gradually. Day after day. Season after season. The learning never stopped. Ancient childhood often involved long periods of preparation. Skills were built slowly. Experience accumulated slowly. Understanding deepened slowly. The morning continues. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across the landscape. Workers settle into steady rhythms. The sounds of activity fill the air. Water splashes softly. Tools move through soil. Voices drift between rows of crops. Everything feels connected to the larger rhythm of life beside the Nile. Elsewhere, in a bustling town, a young apprentice enters a workshop. The familiar smell of wood, clay, or stone greets him depending on the trade. The room is already warm. Light filters through narrow openings in the walls. Dust floats through sunbeams. The master begins work. The apprentice watches carefully. Then he practices. The same motion. Again. And again. And again. Repetition forms the foundation of learning. A skilled artisan may spend years perfecting movements that appear simple to an observer. Children learn this reality early. Mastery required patience. Mistakes were expected. Improvement came slowly. The apprentice understands this more each day. What once felt difficult now feels easier. What once seemed confusing now makes sense. The progress is gradual. But it is real. Outside, the marketplace grows busy. Merchants arrange baskets of produce. Customers move between stalls. Donkeys carry loads through narrow streets. The smell of bread drifts through the air. Children accompany adults through these lively spaces. Markets are classrooms of their own. A child learns how goods are exchanged. How conversations unfold. How trust develops between neighbors. How communities support themselves. Many lessons are learned simply through presence. Simply through observation. Simply through participation. As midday approaches, the heat strengthens. The sky becomes bright and nearly cloudless. Shadows shrink beneath walls and trees. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Children gather beneath awnings, palm trees, and sheltered areas. Near the river, several boys sit together watching boats move across the water. The Nile remains calm. Its surface sparkles beneath the sunlight. One boat carries grain. Another carries pottery. A third carries passengers traveling between settlements. The boys watch quietly. Transportation along the river is a familiar sight. They have seen boats all their lives. Yet they continue watching. The river always offers something to observe. A fisherman repairing nets. A bird diving for fish. A boat disappearing around a bend. The Nile is never entirely still. And because it is never entirely still, it provides endless opportunities for learning. Afternoon arrives. Heat settles heavily over the valley. The pace of work slows slightly. People conserve energy. Children learn to adapt to the environment. The climate itself becomes a teacher. It teaches endurance. It teaches timing. It teaches respect for natural limits. Inside a cool home, a young girl helps her grandmother prepare food. The room smells of grain and warm clay. Sunlight enters through the doorway. The grandmother works steadily. Her movements are practiced. Efficient. Calm. The child copies her actions. Not perfectly. Not yet. But each attempt improves. Each repetition builds confidence. Across ancient Egypt, countless skills passed from one generation to another this way. Not through formal lectures. Not through written instructions. Through shared work. Shared routines. Shared time. The afternoon slowly softens. A breeze begins moving across the river. Palm leaves sway gently overhead. Workers finish their final tasks. The hardest heat begins fading. Relief spreads through the villages and towns. Children helping throughout the day start gathering tools, baskets, and supplies. The familiar transition toward evening begins. Golden sunlight washes across the landscape. The Nile shines brilliantly. Fields glow beneath the lowering sun. Dusty roads take on warm colors. Everything seems softer now. Calmer. Families begin walking home. The day's work is ending. Children walk beside parents. Some carry small items. Others simply enjoy the cooler air. The journey home feels comforting. Predictable. Safe. At home, evening routines unfold. Cooking fires are lit. Bread bakes. Fish roasts. Voices fill the air. Children gather near family members. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. Experiences from the day are discussed. These conversations become another source of learning. Not through formal teaching, but through listening. Through belonging. Through being part of a family and a community. Darkness gradually returns. The stars appear above the Nile once more. The village quiets. The workshops rest. The fields grow silent. Children settle onto woven mats. Their eyes grow heavy. Another day of observation has ended. Another day of practice has ended. Another day of childhood has gently passed. And outside, beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, the Nile continues flowing through the night, carrying the quiet rhythm of countless generations toward another peaceful dawn. The Nile flows beneath a sky full of stars. Its waters move quietly through the darkness, passing fields, villages, temples, and riverbanks that have known the footsteps of countless generations. The current never seems hurried. It simply moves onward, steady and calm, carrying reflections of moonlight across its surface. The night is peaceful. A cool breeze drifts over the river. Reeds sway gently at the water's edge. Palm trees stand motionless against the silver glow of the moon. Throughout the valley, families sleep inside homes built from sun-dried mud brick. The walls hold traces of the day's warmth. The air is still. Children sleep soundly after another day shaped by routine. Another day shaped by repetition. Another day shaped by the quiet expectations of family life. For many young people in ancient Egypt, learning rarely happened in separate spaces away from daily activity. Life itself was the classroom. The home was the classroom. The field was the classroom. The workshop was the classroom. The river was the classroom. Every day offered lessons. And every repeated task strengthened those lessons. As the hours pass, the moon slowly drifts across the sky. Eventually, the darkness begins to soften. The eastern horizon brightens with the first signs of dawn. A new day approaches. The village awakens little by little. A door opens. A rooster calls. Birds begin moving through the trees. The smell of cooking fires soon follows. Morning arrives not with sudden noise but with gentle activity. A young girl opens her eyes. She hears her mother moving nearby. The sound is familiar. Comforting. The same sound has welcomed countless mornings throughout her childhood. She rises from her mat and begins helping with the household's first tasks. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Simple responsibilities. A basket is carried. Water is checked. A younger sibling is watched for a few moments. These actions may appear small. Yet childhood is often built from small things. A habit practiced every day becomes part of character. A responsibility repeated every morning becomes part of identity. The girl completes her tasks without needing much instruction. Years of observation have taught her what to do. The lessons have become second nature. Outside, the village slowly fills with movement. The first sunlight touches the tops of the houses. Golden light spreads across dusty roads. People emerge from their homes. Voices drift softly through the morning air. A father and son prepare for a journey to a nearby field. The son has accompanied his father many times before. At first he simply walked beside him. Then he carried small items. Now he is trusted with larger responsibilities. The change has been gradual. Almost invisible from day to day. Yet over the years, the difference has become clear. Ancient childhood often worked this way. Growth happened through countless ordinary moments. A child learned because the child participated. The father and son walk together beneath the growing sunlight. The road is familiar. Every stone. Every bend. Every cluster of palms. The son knows them all. Repeated journeys create deep familiarity. Children become attached to the landscapes of their daily lives. The river becomes familiar. The fields become familiar. The roads become familiar. These places become part of memory itself. The field is already alive with activity when they arrive. Farmers move among rows of crops. Water flows through irrigation channels. Birds search for insects near the edges of the fields. The day begins. The son watches his father inspect the crops. The movements appear simple. Yet they contain years of experience. The father notices details the child cannot yet see. Subtle changes in the plants. Small signs in the soil. Tiny differences in moisture. The son watches carefully. One day he may notice these things too. But not today. Learning requires time. The land teaches patience. The river teaches patience. Life teaches patience. As the morning progresses, the sun climbs steadily higher. The cool air fades. Warmth spreads across the valley. Workers settle into familiar rhythms. Tasks are performed methodically. The pace is steady rather than hurried. Ancient labor often required endurance more than speed. A farmer cannot rush the growth of crops. A fisherman cannot command fish to appear. A craftsman cannot skip the careful steps required to create quality work. Children learn these realities early. They learn that many important things take time. Elsewhere, along the Nile, a small fishing boat moves across calm water. A young boy sits near his father. The river sparkles beneath the morning sun. The father studies the water carefully. The son watches. Again, observation becomes education. The father points toward a section of river. Perhaps he explains where fish often gather. Perhaps he demonstrates how a net should be cast. The son listens. Then he practices. His first attempt may not be perfect. Few first attempts are. The lesson continues. Practice follows observation. Improvement follows practice. Confidence follows improvement. This pattern appears again and again throughout childhood. The morning continues. The village marketplace begins to fill with activity. Merchants arrange their goods. Customers arrive. Conversations begin. The smell of bread drifts through the air. A young child walks through the marketplace beside an older relative. Everything seems interesting. Colorful baskets. Fresh produce. Clay jars. Bundles of reeds. The child watches carefully. Markets teach many lessons. Children learn how people exchange goods. How neighbors interact. How trust is built. How communities function. The education is subtle, yet powerful. A child who spends years observing marketplace life absorbs countless details without realizing it. By midday, the heat becomes intense. The sky is bright and clear. Shadows shrink beneath trees and walls. The ground radiates warmth. People seek shelter from the strongest sunlight. Work continues, but at a slower pace. Near the riverbank, several children sit beneath the shade of palm trees. The Nile moves quietly beside them. A gentle breeze rises from the water. The shade feels cool and pleasant. The children watch boats moving along the river. One carries stone. Another carries grain. Another carries passengers. The boats move slowly, following the current. The scene is peaceful. Many children spend long periods simply observing the world around them. Watching. Listening. Learning. Observation is not inactivity. Observation is preparation. A child who watches carefully today may understand more tomorrow. Inside a nearby home, a grandmother sits weaving. Several children gather around her. The room is shaded from the heat. Outside, sunlight floods the village. Inside, the atmosphere feels calm. The grandmother's hands move steadily. The children watch every movement. She does not rush. The work unfolds one step at a time. The children see the importance of patience. They see the value of concentration. They see how skill grows through repetition. Perhaps one child tries to imitate the movements. The result may be uneven. That is acceptable. Every expert once began as a beginner. Every skill begins with imperfect attempts. The afternoon stretches onward. The heat gradually begins to fade. A breeze returns to the valley. Palm leaves rustle overhead. Workers feel relief as the harshest sunlight passes. Children helping throughout the day begin finishing their final tasks. Tools are gathered. Supplies are stored. Animals are guided toward shelter. The transition toward evening begins. The golden hours arrive. Sunlight softens. The Nile glows like polished gold. Fields shimmer beneath the lowering sun. The entire landscape seems calmer now. The noise of labor begins fading. Families start making their way home. Dust rises gently beneath their sandals. The familiar evening journey unfolds once again. For children, these walks often become treasured memories. The cooler air, the golden light, the feeling that the work of the day is complete. At home, cooking fires are prepared. The smell of baking bread spreads through the village. Simple meals are shared. Parents, children, grandparents, and relatives gather together. Conversations drip through the warm evening air. Stories are told. Advice is offered. Memories are shared. Children listen carefully. The same stories may be told many times across the years. Yet repetition gives them strength. Repeated stories become family history. Repeated advice becomes wisdom. Repeated values become character. The stars slowly emerge above the valley. One by one they appear. The river reflects their light. Darkness settles gently across the land. The workshops grow silent. The roads empty. The fields rest. Children prepare for sleep. Their bodies feel tired from the day's activities. Their minds carry countless small observations gathered throughout the day. A lesson in the field. A lesson beside the river. A lesson in the marketplace. A lesson at home. None seem extraordinary on their own. Yet together they shape a life. Together they shape a childhood. And as another peaceful night settles over ancient Egypt, the Nile continues its endless journey beneath the stars, carrying with it the quiet rhythm of discipline, repetition, family, and learning that has guided generations for centuries beyond counting. The stars shine brightly above the Nile. Their reflections drift across the dark water, breaking apart whenever the current touches a reed or a moored boat. The river moves with its usual calm certainty, never rushing, never stopping, flowing through the sleeping valley beneath the quiet gaze of the moon. The villages rest. The fields are still. The workshops stand silent behind closed doors. Even the animals seem wrapped in the softness of the night. Only the river continues its gentle conversation with the shore. Inside homes scattered along the Nile, families sleep close together. The air carries traces of baked clay, woven reeds, and the faint scent of cooling earth. The heat of the day has finally loosened its grip. Children sleep peacefully. Tomorrow will resemble yesterday in many ways. The same river. The same roads. The same responsibilities. The same familiar faces. Yet childhood is slowly changing with every passing day. The changes are small enough to escape notice. A child carries a slightly heavier basket. A child understands a task a little better. A child walks with greater confidence. Growth often arrives quietly. The night drifts onward. The moon travels across the sky. Hours pass. Then the darkness begins to fade. A thin ribbon of pale light appears along the eastern horizon. Morning approaches once again. Across ancient Egypt, countless families wake before the sun fully rises. The coolest hours of the day are precious. Work often begins early. The village slowly stirs. A door opens. Footsteps cross a courtyard. Birds call from nearby trees. A cooking fire crackles softly. The sounds are familiar. They have greeted generations of children. A young boy wakes and sits upright on his mat. For a moment he listens to the morning sounds. Then he stands. He already knows what must be done. Years of repetition have taught him. No one needs to remind him where the water jars belong. No one needs to explain where the baskets are stored. No one needs to guide every movement. The lessons have become habits. And habits have become part of daily life. Outside, dawn spreads across the landscape. The sky glows softly with shades of gold and pale blue. The Nile catches the first sunlight and begins to sparkle. Palm trees cast long shadows across the ground. A cool breeze drifts through the village. The day feels full of possibility. Not because something unusual will happen, but because ordinary life itself contains meaning. For ancient families, much of life was built upon dependable routines. The repetition created structure. The structure created stability. Children grew up knowing where they belonged within that structure. A young girl helps her mother prepare for the day. She carries a small basket across the courtyard. The task is simple, yet she performs it carefully. Responsibility often begins with small things. A clay cup. A basket of grain. A younger sibling who needs watching. Over time, small responsibilities prepare children for larger ones. Trust grows little by little. The girl completes her task and returns for another. Then another. The work feels natural. Years ago she would have needed guidance. Now she moves confidently through familiar routines. This quiet confidence appears throughout the ancient world. Children learn not only skills but also reliability. Families depend upon reliability. Communities depend upon reliability. The morning grows brighter. Workers begin traveling toward fields and workshops. Dust rises beneath their sandals. Voices drift through the cool air. The village feels alive. A father and daughter walk together along a path beside an irrigation channel. Water moves gently through the narrow passage. The daughter watches the current. She has seen these channels her entire life. Yet she continues observing them. Children often absorb knowledge gradually through repeated exposure. A lesson seen once may be forgotten. A lesson seen hundreds of times becomes familiar. The daughter understands that the channel carries life to the fields. She understands that someone must maintain it. She understands that neglect brings problems. No formal lecture is necessary. The landscape itself teaches these lessons. They reach the fields. Workers are already beginning their tasks. The air smells of damp soil and growing plants. Birds move between rows of crops. The father kneels and examines the ground. The daughter watches carefully. Observation remains one of the most powerful forms of learning. Many children spend years watching before they fully understand what they see. Then one day, understanding arrives. Not suddenly, but gradually. The pieces come together. The morning continues. The sun rises higher. The coolness fades. Warmth spreads across the valley. Near the river, fishermen prepare boats for another day on the water. A young boy helps untangle a section of net. His fingers move carefully. The work requires patience. The net contains hundreds of knots. A mistake in one place may affect another. The boy works slowly. The fisherman beside him works with confidence born from years of experience. The contrast is easy to see. Yet every skilled fisherman once began exactly the same way. Learning. Practicing. Repeating. Children in ancient Egypt grew up surrounded by examples of mastery earned through patience. Everywhere they looked, adults demonstrated the results of long practice. The baker shaping dough. The builder placing stone. The scribe writing symbols. The fisherman repairing nets. The farmer tending crops. Skill appeared everywhere. And everywhere, skill was connected to repetition. Farther downriver, A young apprentice enters a crowded workshop. The room is already warm. Light pours through a small opening in the wall. Dust hangs in the air. The apprentice greets his master and begins work. The same task awaits him today as yesterday. The same careful motions. The same attention to detail. The same opportunity to improve. At times the repetition feels endless. Yet repetition is the teacher. A child may not always enjoy every task. Ancient children experienced boredom just as children do in every age. Some mornings felt long. Some afternoons felt slow. Some lessons required enormous patience. Yet boredom itself sometimes became part of education. It taught endurance. It taught persistence. It taught the ability to continue even when excitement was absent. The ancient world contained many repetitive activities. Children learned to live comfortably within those rhythms. By midday, the heat settles heavily over the valley. The sun stands high overhead. The air shimmers above roads and fields. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Near the riverbank, several children sit beneath a large palm tree. The shade feels precious. The Nile flows quietly nearby. A fishing boat glides across the water. The children watch. Watching boats is nothing new. They have seen boats all their lives. Yet the sight remains comforting. The river always changes while remaining the same. New boats appear. Different passengers travel. Different cargo passes by. Yet the water continues flowing. The rhythm remains familiar. Children often find comfort in familiar rhythms. The afternoon stretches slowly across the landscape. Inside a home, a grandmother teaches a young child how to weave simple fibers together. The lesson progresses one step at a time. The child struggles. The fibers slip. The pattern becomes uneven. The grandmother smiles gently and demonstrates again. There is no hurry. Learning takes time. The child tries once more. A little better. Then again. A little better still. Countless ancient skills were passed down this way. Not through books. Not through formal examinations. Through shared work. Shared patience. Shared time. The hours pass. Gradually the fierce heat begins to weaken. A breeze arrives from the direction of the Nile. Palm leaves rustle softly. Workers straighten tired backs. The hardest part of the day is ending. Children helping in fields and workshops begin completing final tasks. Tools are cleaned. Supplies are gathered. Animals are guided home. The familiar transition toward evening begins once more. The sunlight turns golden. Long shadows stretch across roads and courtyards. The river glows beneath the lowering sun. Families begin their journey home. Dust rises softly beneath their feet. The air feels cooler now. More comfortable. Children often enjoy this time of day. The labor is finished. The evening meal awaits. The family will soon gather together. Inside homes throughout the valley, cooking fires flicker to life. The smell of baking bread spreads through the air. Fish cook slowly. Clay pots simmer. Voices fill courtyards and doorways. Children sit nearby listening. An older relative tells a familiar story. Perhaps it has been told many times before. Yet nobody seems to mind. Repetition gives stories a special kind of comfort. The words become familiar companions. Children begin anticipating certain parts. They remember details. They absorb lessons hidden within the tale. Stories become another form of repetition. Another way knowledge passes between generations. Darkness slowly returns. Stars appear one by one above the Nile. The village quiets. The roads empty. The workshops rest. The fields fall silent. Children settle onto woven mats. Their eyes grow heavy. Another day has added itself to the long chain of childhood. Another day of observation. Another day of practice. Another day of growing responsibilities. Outside, the river continues moving beneath the stars, carrying its timeless rhythm through the heart of ancient Egypt as another peaceful night settles over the valley. The Nile moves quietly beneath the moon. Its waters slide past riverbanks lined with reeds and clusters of palms, carrying the reflections of countless stars. The current seems almost sleepy in the darkness, gliding through the valley with the same patient rhythm it has followed for centuries. Night blankets the land. The fields rest after a long day beneath the sun. The roads are empty. The workshops are dark. The markets have grown silent. Only the occasional sound of water touching the shore disturbs the stillness. Inside homes built from mud brick, families sleep. The walls hold the warmth of the day, while the cooler night air drifts through doorways and small openings. Woven mats cover the floors. Clay jars stand quietly in corners. Children sleep beside parents, siblings, and grandparents. Their lives are deeply connected to the rhythm surrounding them. The rising of the sun. The movement of the river. The changing seasons. The daily routines that return again and again. As the hours pass, the moon slowly lowers toward the western horizon. The stars begin fading. Morning approaches. The village awakens gradually. A rooster calls from somewhere nearby. Birds begin moving among the trees. A donkey shifts within its shelter. The first doors open. The first footsteps appear on dusty paths. Another day begins. A young boy wakes and immediately recognizes the familiar sounds of morning. The scrape of a basket being moved. The soft murmur of adults speaking. The distant sound of grain being ground into flour. He has heard these sounds nearly every day of his life. They are woven into memory. Children often remember the repeated sounds of their childhood long after individual days have been forgotten. The sounds become symbols of home. Symbols of belonging. Symbols of routine. The boy rises and joins his family. A simple meal is prepared. Bread. Perhaps dates. Perhaps a small amount of vegetables or fish. Nothing extravagant. Yet the meal provides energy for the day ahead. The family eats together. The morning feels peaceful. Outside, dawn spreads across the valley. Golden light touches rooftops and palm leaves. The Nile begins to shimmer. The air remains cool for now. Workers know the cooler hours must be used wisely. Soon the heat will return. A father prepares to leave for the fields. His son accompanies him. The boy carries a small tool. Years ago he would have carried nothing. Then he carried something light. Now he is trusted with a little more. Responsibility grows slowly. Ancient childhood often followed this gradual path. Children were not expected to become capable overnight. Skills developed through repetition. Trust developed through repetition. Confidence developed through repetition. Together they walk along a familiar path. The road winds beside irrigation channels that carry life-giving water toward distant crops. The son watches the flowing water. He has seen these channels every day. Yet each year he understands them a little more. As a small child, he saw only moving water. Now he understands its purpose. Its importance. Its connection to the harvest. Knowledge often grows this way. The world remains the same. The understanding deepens. The fields glow beneath the early sunlight. Farmers move steadily among rows of crops. Birds search for insects. Water sparkles inside narrow channels. The smell of damp earth rises into the air. The father begins working. The son watches. Observation remains one of the great teachers of ancient life. Children spend years studying the actions of adults. They watch how tools are used, how problems are solved, how decisions are made. The lessons rarely arrive all at once. They arrive gradually. A detail noticed today. Another detail noticed next month. Another detail noticed next year. Learning becomes a long journey rather than a single event. Nearby, another child works beside her mother. They are inspecting baskets used to store grain. The daughter examines each basket carefully. Years of experience have taught her what to look for. A loose section. A weak area. A place needing repair. These skills were once mysteries to her. Now they seem obvious. Such transformations happen quietly. One day a child struggles with a task. Years later the same task feels effortless. The change occurs through countless repetitions hidden between those moments. The morning continues. The sun rises higher. Warmth spreads across the landscape. Workers settle into familiar rhythms. The sounds of labor fill the air. Voices. Footsteps. Tools. Animals. Moving water. Together they create the steady music of daily life. Farther along the Nile, fishermen prepare nets near the shore. A young boy helps organize ropes. His fingers move carefully through the tangled fibers. The work requires concentration. At first the ropes seemed confusing. Now he recognizes patterns. Now he understands their purpose. Learning through repetition often creates this kind of familiarity. What once looked complicated becomes understandable. What once seemed difficult becomes routine. Nearby, boats drift slowly across the river. Some carry grain. Some carry pottery. Some transport travelers moving between settlements. The river connects communities throughout the valley. Children growing up beside the Nile witness this movement constantly. They learn that their village is only one small part of a much larger world. The morning gradually gives way to midday. The sun climbs toward its highest point. The air becomes hotter. The brightness grows stronger. Shadows shorten. Workers move more slowly. The pace of life adjusts to the heat. Ancient children learn these rhythms naturally. The environment becomes another teacher. It teaches patience. It teaches endurance. It teaches respect for limits. Near the edge of a town, a young apprentice enters a workshop. The familiar smell of wood and dust fills the room. Sunlight pours through a small opening above. The apprentice greets his master and begins another day of practice. The same movements. The same exercises. The same careful attention. At times the repetition feels endless. Yet every skilled artisan once endured the same process. The apprentice slowly improves. Perhaps he does not notice from one day to the next. But over months and years, the progress becomes clear. The hands become steadier. The eye becomes sharper. The movements become smoother. This is how mastery grows. Quietly. Patiently. One repetition at a time. Outside, the marketplace grows busy. Merchants arrange goods beneath shaded coverings. Customers move between stalls. Conversations drift through the warm air. Children accompany adults through the crowded spaces. A young girl watches a merchant measure grain. She has seen similar transactions many times before. Each observation adds another small piece of understanding. The marketplace teaches lessons about trade, fairness, trust, and cooperation. Not through formal instruction. Through participation. Through exposure. Through repeated experience. By afternoon, the heat presses heavily upon the valley. The roads shimmer. The fields seem almost motionless beneath the sun. Many people seek shade. Near the river, children rest beneath a cluster of palm trees. The breeze coming from the water feels refreshing. The Nile sparkles nearby. A fisherman repairs a net. A boat glides past. Birds circle overhead. The children watch quietly. Observation remains one of childhood's constant companions. Not every lesson requires action. Some require watching. Some require listening. Some require waiting. Patience itself becomes a skill. The afternoon stretches onward. Inside a cool home, an elderly grandmother teaches a child how to prepare fibers for weaving. Her hands move confidently. The child imitates each movement. The first attempt is clumsy. The second is slightly better. The third is better still. Progress comes in tiny steps. Many ancient skills were learned this way. The grandmother does not rush. The child does not fully understand everything yet. Neither expects instant success. Time is part of the lesson. Outside, the sun begins descending toward the western horizon. The fierce brightness softens. A breeze moves through the valley. Workers feel relief. The hardest hours are ending. The landscape gradually turns golden. Fields glow beneath the evening light. Palm trees cast long shadows. The Nile shines like polished metal. Families begin returning home. Dust rises softly beneath their sandals. Children walk beside parents and grandparents. The familiar journey feels comforting. Predictable. Safe. At home, evening preparations begin. Cooking fires flicker. Bread bakes. The smell spreads through the village. Simple meals are shared. Voices fill courtyards and doorways. Children listen as older family members speak about the day. A repaired tool. A successful catch. A healthy crop. Small victories. Small concerns. The ordinary events that shape daily life. Stories emerge naturally from these conversations. Advice is repeated. Memories are repeated. Lessons are repeated. And through repetition, they become part of the next generation. Darkness slowly returns. Stars appear above the Nile. The workshops grow silent. The roads empty. The fields rest beneath the night sky. Children settle onto woven mats once more. Their eyes grow heavy. Another day has quietly shaped them. Another day has strengthened habits. Another day has added new understanding. Outside, the ancient river continues its endless journey through the darkness, carrying the calm rhythm of childhood, discipline, and repetition beneath the watchful stars of Egypt's timeless night. The Nile drifts through the darkness like a quiet thread woven across the land. Its waters move beneath the stars, carrying reflections that tremble and stretch upon the surface. Along the riverbanks, reeds lean gently in the night breeze. Palm trees stand watch over sleeping villages, their shadows blending into the darkness. The valley is still. The heat of the day has faded. The roads are empty. The workshops are silent. The fields rest beneath the moonlight. Inside the homes scattered along the river, families sleep peacefully. Children lie on woven mats beside brothers, sisters, parents, and grandparents. The simple rooms hold the familiar smells of clay, grain, reeds, and the faint traces of cooking fires that burned earlier in the evening. The children are tired. Not from extraordinary adventures. Not from remarkable events. But from ordinary life. From walking dusty roads. From carrying baskets. From helping with chores. From observing adults. From learning little by little throughout the day. Ancient childhood often unfolded through countless ordinary moments. Those moments rarely seemed important at the time. Yet together they shaped a person's entire life. The moon continues its journey overhead. Hours pass. The stars slowly begin to fade. Morning approaches once again. The eastern horizon lightens. Birds awaken. A breeze moves through the village. The first sounds of the new day begin to appear. A door opens. A clay jar is lifted. Footsteps cross a courtyard. The rhythm begins again. A young girl opens her eyes. For a moment she remains still, listening to the familiar sounds. The village is waking. She knows what comes next. She has known for years. The habits of childhood have become deeply rooted. Without needing instructions, she rises and begins helping with the morning routine. A basket must be moved. A storage jar must be checked. Water must be brought from a nearby source. The tasks are familiar. Almost comforting in their predictability. Many ancient children grew up within routines that changed very little from one day to the next. The same tasks returned. The same responsibilities returned. The same lessons returned. Yet repetition did not mean stagnation. Each year brought new understanding. Each year brought greater responsibility. Each year carried a child a little closer toward adulthood. Outside, dawn spreads across the valley. Golden light touches the tops of the palm trees. The Nile begins to sparkle beneath the rising sun. The air remains cool. For a brief period each morning, the land feels gentle and fresh before the heat arrives. People emerge from their homes. Voices drift softly through the air. Children walk beside adults. The village slowly fills with movement. A young boy follows his grandfather toward the river. The older man moves carefully but confidently. He has walked this path thousands of times. The boy walks beside him. He knows the road well. Every turn feels familiar. Every cluster of reeds feels familiar. Every section of riverbank feels familiar. Children often form deep connections with places they encounter repeatedly. The river becomes more than a landscape. It becomes part of memory. Part of identity. Part of home. The grandfather stops beside the water. The Nile moves quietly before them. For a few moments they simply watch. The old man studies the current. The boy studies the old man. Observation remains one of childhood's most powerful teachers. The boy learns not only from tasks but from behavior. He learns patience by watching patience. He learns attentiveness by watching attentiveness. He learns calmness by watching calmness. Many lessons pass between generations without a single spoken word. The morning continues. The sun climbs higher. Boats begin moving along the river. Fishermen prepare their nets. Merchants organize goods for transport. Life unfolds according to familiar patterns. The boy watches carefully. One day these activities may become his responsibilities. For now, they remain lessons. Nearby, another child helps her mother prepare grain. The work requires steady effort. The grinding stone moves back and forth. Back and forth. Back and forth. The motion repeats endlessly. Many children grew up hearing this sound. Morning after morning. Year after year. The rhythm became part of life itself. The daughter has watched this task since she was very small. At first she simply observed. Later she helped with simple steps. Now she participates more fully. Her muscles have grown stronger. Her understanding has deepened. What once seemed difficult now feels familiar. This gradual progression appears everywhere in ancient childhood. Learning rarely happened all at once. Instead, knowledge accumulated slowly. A little each day. A little each season. A little each year. The morning settles into a comfortable rhythm. Workers head toward fields. Artisans enter workshops. Merchants prepare for business. Children accompany adults and continue learning through participation. Far from the river, near a growing town, a young apprentice arrives at a workshop. The room smells of wood shavings and dust. Sunlight enters through narrow openings in the wall. The apprentice greets his master. Then the day's practice begins. The same movements. The same techniques. The same careful attention. At times the work feels repetitive. But repetition is precisely what develops skill. The master understands this. The apprentice is beginning to understand it too. Each day brings small improvements. Not dramatic improvements. Small ones. A smoother movement. A cleaner cut. A better result. These small gains accumulate over time. Months become years. Years become expertise. Outside, the town grows busier. The marketplace fills with activity. Voices rise and fall. Animals move through the streets. Children weave through the crowd alongside parents and relatives. A young girl watches a merchant carefully measure grain. The process fascinates her. The merchant checks the quantity. Adjusts it. Checks again. Accuracy matters. Fairness matters. Trust matters. The girl may not fully understand these ideas yet. But repeated observation plants the seeds of understanding. The lessons will grow later. Midday arrives. The heat settles across the valley. The air becomes heavy. Roads shimmer beneath the bright sun. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Children do the same. Near the river, a group of boys sits beneath a large palm tree. The breeze coming from the Nile offers relief. The boys watch boats drifting across the water. Some boats move quickly with favorable currents. Others travel more slowly. Each carries people, goods, or supplies. The river remains busy even during the hottest hours. One boy notices a fisherman repairing a torn net. The fisherman works patiently. Knot after knot. Loop after loop. The process seems slow. Yet the fisherman never rushes. Children often witnessed adults performing tasks that required extraordinary patience. Through these observations, patience itself became a lesson. Not because someone explained its importance. Because it appeared everywhere. The afternoon stretches onward. Inside a shaded home, several children gather around an elderly grandmother. She sits weaving reeds into baskets. Her hands move confidently. The pattern grows gradually. The children watch. One child attempts to imitate her. The first effort is uneven. The grandmother gently demonstrates again. The child tries once more. No frustration. No hurry. Only practice. The basket grows one strand at a time. Just as skill grows one lesson at a time. Outside, the heat slowly begins to weaken. The afternoon breeze strengthens. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Workers straighten tired backs. The end of the day approaches. Children helping in fields and workshops begin gathering tools. Animals are guided home. Storage containers are checked. The familiar transition toward evening begins once more. The sunlight turns golden. The Nile reflects orange and gold colors across its surface. The entire landscape seems softer now. Calmer. More relaxed. Families begin returning home together. The roads fill with familiar faces. Neighbors greet one another. Children walk beside adults. The pace is unhurried. The labor of the day is ending. At home, cooking fires glow warmly. The smell of baking bread drifts through the village. Simple meals are prepared. Families gather together. Conversations begin. Children listen while adults discuss crops, weather, repairs, and plans for the coming days. These conversations form another part of education. Children learn what matters to their community. They learn what adults value. They learn how problems are discussed and solved. Not through formal lessons. Through participation. Through listening. Through belonging. Darkness slowly settles over the Nile Valley. The stars emerge one by one. The roads empty. The workshops fall silent. The fields disappear into shadow. Children grow sleepy. Their eyelids become heavy. Another day has passed. Another day of observation. Another day of repetition. Another day of quiet learning. And outside, beneath the endless stars, the Nile continues its ancient journey through the darkness, carrying the peaceful rhythm of childhood forward into another gentle night. The Nile moves through the night with quiet certainty. Its waters glide beneath the stars, flowing past villages that have long since settled into sleep. The moon hangs above the valley, casting pale light across the riverbanks and turning the surface of the water into a ribbon of silver. Everything feels calm. The fields lie silent beneath the darkness. The workshops rest after a day of labor. The marketplaces stand empty. The roads that were busy only hours ago now belong to the wind and the shadows. Inside mudbrick homes, families sleep close together. The thick walls hold the warmth gathered during the day. Woven mats cover smooth floors. Clay jars stand patiently beside baskets filled with grain. Children sleep deeply. Their bodies are tired from another day of movement and responsibility. Their minds carry hundreds of small memories gathered throughout the day. A task completed. A lesson observed. A story heard. A mistake corrected. A new skill practiced. These small moments may seem unimportant on their own. Yet together they shape childhood. Together they shape character. The night drifts onward. A gentle breeze moves through the reeds along the riverbank. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. The stars slowly wheel across the sky. Hours pass. Then, as always, morning begins its quiet return. The eastern horizon brightens with the faintest hint of gold. The darkness softens. Birds begin to stir. The village slowly awakens. A door opens. A cooking fire is prepared. Footsteps cross a courtyard. The familiar rhythm begins again. For children growing up beside the Nile, repetition is not something separate from life. It is woven into life itself. The same sunrise returns. The same river flows. The same responsibilities await. Yet each day also carries small changes. A little more understanding. A little more confidence. A little more independence. A young boy opens his eyes. The room remains dim. For a moment he listens to the sounds of morning. He hears grain being ground. He hears a clay jar being lifted. He hears voices outside. The sounds feel familiar. Comforting. Like old friends returning each day. The boy rises and begins helping with the morning routine. No one needs to tell him what to do. Years of repetition have taught him. He knows where supplies are stored. He knows which tasks belong to him. He knows how the household begins each day. Knowledge gained through repetition often feels different from knowledge gained through instruction. It becomes instinctive, natural, effortless. Outside, dawn spreads across the valley. The first sunlight touches the tops of palm trees. The Nile sparkles beneath the growing light. The air remains cool and pleasant. Workers emerge from their homes. Children follow alongside them. The village slowly fills with life. A young girl walks beside her mother toward a nearby water source. The clay jar she carries feels heavier than it did a year ago. Not because the jar has changed. Because she has grown stronger. Ancient childhood often involved noticing growth through responsibility. A task that once felt difficult becomes easy. A distance that once felt long becomes familiar. A skill that once seemed impossible becomes routine. The girl walks carefully. She has traveled this path many times. The road is known to her. Every tree, every stone, every bend. Repeated journeys create deep familiarity. Children often know their surroundings with remarkable detail because they encounter them again and again. The mother and daughter reach the water. Other families have arrived as well. The morning remains quiet, peaceful. People exchange greetings. Children observe. The daughter watches how adults interact. How they cooperate. How they help one another. Social lessons often arrive through observation rather than explanation. Children learn community by participating in community. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across the landscape. Farmers begin working in the fields. Craftsmen open workshops. Fishermen prepare boats. The valley settles into its daily rhythm. Near a fertile field beside an irrigation channel, a father works while his son watches closely. The father examines the soil. He studies the condition of the crops. He notices details invisible to inexperienced eyes. The son pays attention. Years of observation have taught him many things already. Not everything, but enough to recognize patterns. Enough to understand more than he once did. Learning through observation often happens quietly. One day a child suddenly realizes he understands something that once seemed mysterious. The knowledge has been growing for years beneath the surface. The morning continues. The air grows warmer. The sounds of labor spread across the countryside. Moving water. Footsteps. Tools striking earth. Voices drifting between fields. Children hear these sounds every day. The sounds become part of memory. Part of identity. Part of home. Farther down the river, a young apprentice enters a workshop. The familiar smell greets him immediately. Wood. Dust. Clay. Warm air. The room feels almost like a second home. He has spent so many hours here. The master begins demonstrating a task. The apprentice watches. Then practices. Then watches again. The cycle continues. Repetition remains the foundation of learning. A skilled artisan may perform the same movement thousands of times throughout a lifetime. Children gradually learn to appreciate this reality. Progress often comes slowly. Yet slow progress is still progress. The apprentice's hands are steadier now than they were last year. His movements are more confident. His mistakes are fewer. The improvement is undeniable, even if it arrived one small step at a time. Outside, the marketplace becomes busy. Merchants arrange goods beneath shaded coverings. Customers move through narrow streets. Animals carry loads between different parts of town. A child accompanies an older relative through the crowd. Everything attracts attention. The sounds, the smells, the colors, the conversations. Markets provide endless opportunities for observation. Children witness trade. They witness cooperation. They witness disagreement and resolution. They learn how communities function. Not through formal lessons. Through daily experience. By midday, the heat becomes intense. The sun stands high above the valley. Shadows retreat beneath buildings and trees. Workers seek moments of shade whenever possible. Near the Nile, several children rest beneath a cluster of palms. The breeze coming from the water feels refreshing. The river sparkles beneath the bright sunlight. A boat glides slowly past. Then another. The children watch quietly. The river teaches patience. It moves steadily. Never rushing. Never stopping. Many aspects of life beside the Nile follow a similar rhythm. The seasons cannot be hurried. Crops cannot be hurried. Learning cannot be hurried. Children absorb these lessons naturally. The environment itself becomes a teacher. Inside a nearby home, a grandmother prepares fibers for weaving. A young child sits beside her, watching, learning. The grandmother's hands move with confidence born from decades of practice. The child tries to imitate her. The result is imperfect. The grandmother smiles and demonstrates again. Patience is part of the lesson. The child tries once more. A little better. Then again. A little better still. Ancient childhood often involved repeating the same action many times. Not because children lacked ability. Because mastery takes time. The afternoon drifts slowly across the valley. The heat begins to soften. A breeze moves through the palm trees. Workers feel relief. Children helping in fields and workshops begin finishing their final tasks. Tools are gathered. Animals are guided home. Storage containers are checked. The familiar movement toward evening begins. Golden sunlight spreads across the landscape. The Nile glows brilliantly. Fields shimmer beneath the lowering sun. Dusty roads shine with warm colors. Everything feels softer now. More peaceful. Families begin returning home. Children walk beside parents and grandparents. The day is ending. The work is finished. For now. Cooking fires flicker to life throughout the village. The smell of baking bread fills the evening air. Meals are prepared. Families gather together. Conversations begin. Children listen carefully. Advice is repeated. Stories are repeated. Values are repeated. The same lessons return again and again. And through repetition, they become part of the next generation. Darkness slowly settles across the valley. The stars emerge overhead. The workshops grow silent. The roads empty. The fields disappear into shadow. Children settle onto woven mats. Their eyelids grow heavy. Another day has quietly shaped them. Another day has added to the long journey of childhood. And outside, beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, the Nile continues its timeless journey through the darkness, carrying the gentle rhythm of discipline, patience, family, and repetition toward another peaceful dawn. The Nile flows beneath the stars as it always has. Its waters move through the darkness with a calm and steady rhythm, passing villages that sleep along its banks. Moonlight rests upon the river like a pale veil, shimmering whenever the current shifts around reeds, stones, or the wooden hulls of boats tied securely for the night. The valley is quiet. The day's voices have faded. The workshops have fallen silent. The marketplaces rest beneath the moon. The fields, which only hours ago were alive with movement and labor, now lie still beneath the cool night air. Inside homes made from mud, brick and straw, families sleep peacefully. The rooms are simple. A few baskets. A few jars. A few tools resting against a wall. Nothing extravagant. Nothing unnecessary. The objects surrounding these families exist because they serve a purpose. Ancient childhood unfolded within this practical world. Children grew up surrounded by work, responsibility, and routine. Yet they also grew up surrounded by familiarity. The same walls. The same roads. The same fields. The same river. The familiar world offered comfort. It offered stability. A young boy sleeps beside his younger brother. His breathing is slow and steady. Tomorrow he will wake before sunrise. Tomorrow he will help with tasks he has completed many times before. Tomorrow will feel familiar. And yet, without realizing it, he will continue changing. That is one of childhood's quiet mysteries. Growth often happens without being noticed. The child rarely sees it. The family rarely sees it. But day by day, year by year, it continues. The stars slowly cross the sky. The moon drifts westward. The darkness begins to soften. Morning approaches once more. A faint glow appears beyond the eastern horizon. Birds begin calling from trees near the river. The village stirs. A door opens. A cooking fire crackles softly. Footsteps move across a courtyard. The ancient rhythm begins again. The boy wakes. For a moment he listens. The sounds of morning surround him. The grinding of grain. The voices of adults. The distant call of animals. He has heard these sounds thousands of times. They belong to the landscape of his childhood. Every generation develops a collection of sounds that become inseparable from memory. For children beside the Nile, these sounds often included moving water, birds, sandals on packed earth, and the steady work of families beginning another day. Outside, dawn spreads gently across the valley. The Nile catches the first light. Palm trees glow softly against the brightening sky. The coolness of early morning lingers for a little while longer. People begin emerging from their homes. The village fills with movement. A young girl helps her mother prepare bread. The process is familiar. The ingredients are familiar. The tools are familiar. The movements are familiar. She has watched this work since she was very small. At first she simply observed. Then she assisted with small tasks. Now she participates more fully. The progression feels natural. There is no single moment when she suddenly becomes capable. The change arrives gradually through repetition. One morning blends into another. One lesson blends into another. Over time, skill emerges. The smell of baking bread soon spreads through the village. Warm and comforting. Children throughout ancient Egypt would have known this smell well. It often greeted them at the beginning of the day. The scent became part of home itself. Part of safety. Part of routine. Nearby, a father and son prepare to leave for the fields. The son carries a tool carefully across his shoulder. A year ago the tool might have felt heavy. Now it feels normal. The body adapts. The mind adapts. Responsibility expands. Children gradually become capable of things that once seemed difficult. Together they walk toward the cultivated land beside the Nile. The path feels familiar beneath their sandals. The son notices details almost without thinking. A certain tree. A bend in the road. A section of irrigation channel. Repeated exposure has made the landscape deeply familiar. Many ancient children developed remarkable awareness of their surroundings. The same paths were traveled again and again. The same landmarks appeared every day. Memory became rooted in place. The fields glow beneath the morning sun. Water moves quietly through channels dug long ago. Farmers begin their work. Birds search among the crops. The day settles into motion. The father kneels to inspect a section of soil. The son watches carefully. Observation remains one of the most important forms of education. Children spend years studying adults. Not because they are instructed to do so. Because life naturally places them nearby. A child watches a parent solve a problem. A child watches a grandparent complete a task. A child watches a skilled worker perform a craft. Each observation becomes part of learning. Not immediately, but eventually. The morning continues. The sun rises higher. Warmth spreads across the valley. Workers move through fields with practiced efficiency. Tasks that appear complicated to a child seem simple to experienced adults. Yet those adults once stood in the same position. Watching. Learning. Practicing. Repeating. Ancient childhood was often a long process of moving from observer to participant. Near the riverbank, fishermen prepare their boats. A young boy helps organize equipment. The ropes feel rough beneath his hands. The smell of water fills the air. The fisherman beside him checks a net carefully. The boy watches. Every knot has a purpose. Every repair matters. A damaged net can mean lost opportunities. The fisherman works patiently. The boy learns patience by watching. This lesson appears again and again throughout ancient life. Patience in farming. Patience in fishing. Patience in weaving. Patience in building. Patience in learning. The environment itself encourages patience. The Nile cannot be rushed. The seasons cannot be rushed. Growth cannot be rushed. Farther away, inside a busy workshop, an apprentice begins another day of practice. Sunlight filters through a small opening. Dust drifts through the air. The apprentice repeats a movement he has performed hundreds of times before. Again. And again. And again. At times the repetition feels endless. Yet repetition slowly transforms uncertainty into confidence. The hands learn. The eyes learn. The mind learns. Progress rarely announces itself. It arrives quietly. The apprentice simply discovers one day that the task feels easier than it once did. Outside, the marketplace fills with activity. Merchants arrange baskets of vegetables. Potters display their goods. Customers move through narrow streets. Children accompany parents and relatives. A young girl watches a merchant weigh grain. The process seems ordinary. Yet she observes carefully. Ancient children often learned by paying attention to ordinary things. The marketplace teaches fairness. The marketplace teaches trust. The marketplace teaches communication. Everyday experiences become lessons. By midday, the heat grows intense. The sky shines bright and clear above the valley. The ground radiates warmth. Workers seek shade when possible. Near the Nile, several children sit beneath palm trees. The river flows quietly nearby. A boat glides across the water. The children watch it disappear around a distant bend. Then another boat appears. The Nile always offers something to observe. Its constant movement encourages quiet reflection. The children sit peacefully, listening to water, feeling the breeze, watching the world pass by. The afternoon unfolds slowly. Inside a shaded home, an elderly woman teaches a child how to weave reeds together. The lesson requires concentration. The child's first attempts are uneven. The reeds slip. The pattern breaks. The woman demonstrates again. Calmly. Patiently. The child tries once more. Ancient learning often followed this rhythm. Practice. Correction. Practice again. Not because children were failing. Because mastery requires repetition. The afternoon heat gradually softens. A breeze moves through the village. Workers begin finishing their final tasks. Animals are guided towards shelter. Tools are gathered. Storage areas are checked. The day begins moving toward evening. Golden sunlight spreads across the landscape. The Nile shines brilliantly. Palm trees cast long shadows. Dusty roads glow beneath the lowering sun. Families begin walking home. Children walk beside adults. The familiar journey feels comforting. The work is finished. The evening awaits. Cooking fires soon flicker throughout the village. The smell of bread fills the air once more. Simple meals are shared. Conversations drift through courtyards. Children listen closely. An older relative begins telling a familiar story. Perhaps the children have heard it many times. Yet they listen anyway. The story feels comforting. Its familiar words create a sense of belonging. Stories, like routines, become part of childhood. Part of memory. Part of identity. Darkness slowly returns to the Nile Valley. Stars emerge overhead. The workshops fall silent. The roads empty. The fields rest beneath the night sky. Children settle onto woven mats. Their eyes grow heavy. Another day has quietly shaped them. Another day has strengthened habits. Another day has added new understanding. And outside, beneath the endless stars reflected upon the ancient river, the Nile continues flowing through the darkness, carrying the gentle rhythm of childhood toward another peaceful dawn. As the night grows deeper, the Nile continues its quiet journey beneath the stars. The river has flowed beside countless villages, countless families, and countless childhoods. It has watched generations wake before dawn, walk dusty roads, learn familiar tasks, and return home beneath golden evening skies. Now the valley rests. The fields are silent. The workshops stand empty. The cooking fires have faded into darkness. Palm trees sway gently in the cool night breeze. Reeds whisper softly along the riverbank. Above, the stars shine with steady light, reflected in the calm water below. In homes built from mud brick, families sleep peacefully. Children who spent the day learning, helping, observing, and growing now rest beside parents and grandparents. The responsibilities of tomorrow can wait until morning. For now, there is only quiet. Only stillness. Only the gentle rhythm of the river. The lessons of childhood continue to drift through the valley. Patience learned beside a fishing net. Responsibility learned through daily chores. Confidence gained through repetition. Wisdom passed from one generation to the next through work, stories, and shared time. None of it arrived quickly. Like the Nile itself, it moved steadily. Slowly. Patiently. One day after another. One season after another. One childhood after another. The moon hangs low above the water now. Its reflection stretches across the river like a path of silver. The breeze grows softer. The sounds of the world become fewer. A distant splash. A rustling palm leaf. The quiet movement of water against the shore. Then even those sounds begin to fade. The ancient villages sleep. The fields sleep. The roads sleep. The river alone continues onward through the darkness. And beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, beside the calm waters of the Nile, the night settles gently over everything. The stars remain above. The river remains below. And the peaceful rhythm of the ancient world slowly drifts into silence.